Hello and welcome to Boss Store, the final threshold beyond which games must face their final and toughest opponent. My name's Ross.
Joey!
And I'm here with my co-hosts.
Joey!
And today we're going to be talking about Metal Gear Solids 1 and 2. I didn't pause. I would never pause. But anyway, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be incorporating a lot more philosophy into it, which I'm pretty excited about. I know together we have a lot of things to say about Microsoft 1 and 2. But if you were drawn in by the title of this, if you were like, oh, that sounds interesting, you are our target audience, alright? You have been clickbaited. I control you now. Your controller is in the wrong port, and you have done what I wanted you to do. And then we cut to music. All of this genes nonsense is nonsense.
They call them the lollylulelo a lot,
Yep.
just because I think it's funny to say. And then I finally get to the world that I was building towards, and it's ugly.
Why did I do this?
Why did I
dumb.
pick an arch-villain that might possess me?
Oh, damn these recessive genes.
Yeah. In our podcast, sometimes it's fun to kind of imitate like the tone or themes or, general way that the game communicates with you in a similar fashion. And that's kind of happening independently of our own efforts outside of this, because we've been trying to record this podcast for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
and we literally can't start, which is very Kojima-esque if you've ever played an Hideo game. So if you're not familiar with Kojima's style, we've already talked about one of his games, Death Stranding, which is... I don't know what that is.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
You gotta be fucking kidding me. We just got interrupted by a real-life codec. We're just trying to play the game, and then someone is just like, do you want to hear about my backstory? Bunch of Christian people in fucking sweaters. But if you're not familiar with Kojima games, you can check out our Death Stranding podcast, or play any of the Metal Gears or Death Stranding. One thing that is very immediately apparent to the player in any of his games is one, he certainly worked on it a lot. You will notice in the credits, and the credits will say his name a lot. It's one of the few, I think, people in gaming where everyone knows his name.
Yeah.
Because every one of his games is like written by Hideo Kojima, directed by Hideo Kojima, made more good smelly by Hideo Kojima.
Oh, yeah, that is a constant Kojima thing. If you play Metal Gear Solid 5, it's split up into, like, missions, and each mission has intro credits. You see Kojima's name, like, 500 times in that game. It is absurd how much you're just like, you just have to joke about it. You're just like, hey, did you know this was made by Hideo Kojima? I was like, yeah, I did. Because he says his name 1,000 times.
And one thing, we're both big Kojima fans, but also as we keep looking at him closer and closer, it's hard not to notice his personality traits, if you will.
Yes, those are words for it.
So one thing you will also notice, other than his name, is he wants you to hear him speak. It won't be him specifically, but you can tell 100% when a character is just saying what Kojima wants to be saying right now.
Yeah, Kojima's a man with a lot of thoughts, which I can appreciate. I started a podcast.
I don't think that necessarily those are mutually exclusive.
If Kojima, I
opposite.
believe, has talked about starting a podcast recently, and yeah, if you're Kojima, if you're listening, do that.
With us, be the third member.
Be the third member of Boss Store. This is an open invitation to Hideo Kojima, massively successful video game director for decades.
We can finally have someone to help us fight our blood war with Miyazaki.
Oh, that's gonna come up soon, huh?
As long as the strategy of nuclear deterrence continues, nuclear weapons may be reduced, but they will never be eliminated. If you think about it, nuclear reduction does not mean much without elimination as the ultimate goal. I used to work in the DIA. I figured the only way to achieve nuclear elimination was to work from the inside to convince them of the ineffectiveness of the deterrence theory.
Seems like you're pretty focused on that issue.
Victims of nuclear radiation are a sad thing to see, and I have seen a lot of it. I have seen more than enough of it. I was born and raised in Prevalent, Ukraine. I was 10 years old on that day, April 26, 1986.
You don't mean...
Yes, Chernobyl.
So Kojima games are a lot, to say the least. But Metal Gear Solid 1, I would say, is one of the most approachable of his games, where Metal Gear Solid 2 is like maybe one of the least approachable of his games. So it's going to be a fun comparison. But to start off basic, Metal Gear Solid 1 is sort of the progenitor of the action stealth genre. I think they coined the term tactical espionage action, right, for Metal Gear Solid 1.
It's also so hard to be like games like Metal Gear, you know? Like there's Siphon Filter and there's in Dead Cell or whatever.
Yeah.
It's games like that, but like
if you're old
those
enough,
are just also Metal Gear is more known than all those.
If you're old enough to have played like Thief, you know,
yeah.
You probably already know this game. Like, we're not going to tell you anything new, except we are. So keep listening.
Metal Gear Solid 1 is really interesting because this is that era that really benefits creative game designers because we're beginning the 3D era, which means we have to see what sort of things transfer from 2D to 3D in what things actually work that we have never done before, right? You're currently seeing that right now in VR. You can make a lot of different types of VR games, but we're kind of finding, oh, this genre works better and stuff like that in the confines of the medium. So if we're taking, it is an espionage sneaking game, but really it's kind of more to me in the lines of like the Zelda-y adventure model of games that we had up until this point, right? You're going through areas that are sectioned off by like some sort of keys, and then you fight bosses to unlock more sections and get more things as you go forward. It's just like there's a story wrapped around a series of like dungeons that lead to bosses, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
That can describe most games, right? Or a lot of games, in a lot of ways you can say, well, you just described Dark Souls as well, But I think when it's so early in kind of like the formation of games, we have to look at, well, how is that formula going to work in the 3D world? And how can we tell more compelling stories? Because other than like Final Fantasy-like games, most 2D game story are like, I don't know, like bears and shit. like what was the Donkey Kong where, they took his bananas.
You're a donkey. Nope, you're a Kong? Yes.
Yeah. So other than like kind of traditional, very number-based RPGs, it's kind of hard to tell like a good story in video games up until this point, I would say.
Yeah, and I think Kojima really took up that cause in Metal Gear Solid 1. It's not just like an interesting game mechanically or that it, created an entire genre of sneaking stealth kind of games, but its story is resonant throughout the ages. It's a really profound way of looking at the world that I think cannot get enough credit and praise.
Yeah, and I would agree, because there's something that one does that other games weren't really trying to do. They were trying to make a movie. And yeah. I don't just mean like, oh, the cutscenes are really long and, these sorts of things. Is they built the story beats in a movie format. So also to talk about, other games and kind of, the history of evolving narrative is, a big problem, again, with a lot of early games that are narrative-focused is they're RPGs. And a lot of those RPGs are like, kind of just need the player to, like, fuck around the world and, like, go to dungeons for a while. And you're like, colored orbs. Let's have them collect colored orbs.
If they collect enough orbs, they can fight the boss fight and win the game.
Yeah, and there's just a little bit less storytelling, in my opinion, to, like, if you collect the magical orbs, it weakens the barrier around me and you can defeat the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say a lot, right? Now, this game, on the other hand, it's clearly... So, Kojima is obsessed with American movies, and this game is very heavily based on various different American action movies he's obsessed with.
Yeah.
Most specifically Escape from New York, which Snake's design in this game was based off of.
I think it's only in 2 they call him Snake Plissken or something like that.
They call him Iroquois Plissken.
Iroquois Plissken, and that's taken directly from Escape from New York.
Yeah, that's his, not moniker, but his alias.
Yeah,
or
his alias.
call it when he's pretending not to be Snake, even though every player's like, but that is Snake. I mean, I know there's clones of him. Yeah. But it's still definitely Snake.
It's probably not a clone.
He's hanging with Otacon. It's just too dumb to not be that. To finish the thought was, the game starts off very much homaging these kind of like macho spy movies, right? But Kojima does his kind of very Kojima-esque twist, where at first you think it's a more normal spy, and then it becomes comic booky in nature.
Yeah.
Because you see a cyborg ninja, jumping out of nowhere to cut off a cowboy's arm.
Yeah, you get these sort of like fantastical elements placed inside of them,
Yeah, and then so it takes you into sort of a different sort of world.
It takes you into the Kojima brain, which is a scary and strange place to be, but also I think an inspiring place to be in a lot of ways. So the basic premise of like Metal Gear Solid 1 is that you are infiltrating a base, and I forget how they tell you it begins. You're just there because they control a nuke, right? And you're there to stop the nuke.
So terrorists take over a base in Alaska and are holding the world hostage with a nuke.
A nuclear weapon.
And it's a specific type of nuke you learn later on that's just harder for people. Like, it doesn't use propulsion system. It uses a railgun. So there's propellant on it, so people can't see the nuke and use their lasers to stop it. So it's not just any nuke. It's a super stealth nuke.
Yeah, it's the nuke that if you launch it, it will hit its target.
Yeah.
Which is, the basis behind the terror of the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
It's always like, it doesn't matter how many nukes you launch, it's the one that lands that matters. You know? And that was the problem of like, not to get too into the philosophy behind it, but the basic idea is this game is representing the ideas of nuclear proliferation and the Red Scare of American stuff, the terrors of the Cold War as this singular entity, this singular nuke that's like, if they launch it, people die. Right? The world goes to hell because, somebody launched a nuke.
Yeah.
And it's, it's a metaphor. Well, it's not even a metaphor, really. It's just a scaled down concept that I think we see done really well throughout this whole game.
So I would say there's kind of 3 themes that they really focus on in the story of the game, right? Nukes and nuclear proliferation and the implications thereof.
Right.
Right. What it means to be a soldier and what it means to take orders and what do we fight for and things like that. Just different implications of kind of being a soldier who by definition has to take orders, kind of the existential crisis that they have inside themselves with those sorts of things.
Right. And of course the third being the all-important question.
What to do with our jizz.
Can love bloom on the battlefield?
Oh, I was close, but it's actually really just an overall thing about genes. Right? And not just like, there's a lot of talk about passing down our genes and what that should be, but also a lot about nature versus nurture. What is put inside of us before we're even make our first decision, right? And what are our responses to the stimuli that we're involved with throughout our life?
Yes, and then subsequently, like how much can we be responsible for our own actions and things like that? And I do think the question that Otacon asked later, Snake, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? And he says it in a whiny Otacon voice. I think that question is central to the themes of the game, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So we'll get to that in a bit. First, let's talk about how the game begins. You're just infiltrating the base. It's a lot of fun, I think, just to infiltrate the base initially, because you have like this radar, and guards can only see in like a little cone of vision, so you know exactly where guards are, and you play most of this game basically through radar, because visually it doesn't help you to see things. But for a PlayStation 1 game, it's stuff that's like, you leave footprints in the snow, and guards will see that. You can step on loud grates, and guards will hear you.
Yeah, or in that first area, a puddle of water.
A puddle of water, right. So it's stuff like that where you're immediately more immersed in the game than I think you would ever expect to be on a PlayStation 1 game, right? If you see guards, like normally, any other game, you see guards with like a cone of vision, you're like, just avoid the cone of vision, you'll be fine. I've seen so many games where it's like, they don't have any kind of noise detection. It doesn't matter how fast you run up to guards, but in this game, those kinds of things matters. I think it sucks you in immediately. I think in the first room, it already is distinguishing itself as a new kind of experience.
I think the first room is actually really brilliant because you're waiting for an elevator to come down to go up that elevator. And while that's happening, they're doing the opening credits. And the elevator doesn't come down until those credits are done. And it gives you about just enough time for a new player to fuck around, learn the buttons, kind of see a little bit of guard AI, see the puddle of water, walk in the puddle of water, see that you could knock on a door and see that the sound draws them, you know? Just kind of interact with the environment enough to have a basic feel for the controls. And then the elevator comes down, and as it goes up, it says the Metal Gear Solid 1, and is like instantly transitioning into a cutscene that also puts you in the place of Snake and really kind of grounds your character into the scenario that they're actually in, but also have given you enough time to understand what you're playing and what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's very un-Kojima-esque in a lot of ways because he lets you touch the controller at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, he stops doing that almost immediately.
Yeah. See, in Metal Gear Solid 1, there's a whole bunch of briefings you can see in the pause menu or in the opening start menu before the game starts. So you can spend 40 minutes listening to people explain stuff before you actually touch the game.
But shockingly, you don't have to.
Yeah, it is optional.
And what's interesting beyond all of that is the fact that you are introduced to Solid Snake, and he is talking to, was it the Colonel? A Colonel?
Yeah, the Colonel.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to get 1 and 2 mixed up. It's going to be hard because they're very similar.
Yeah, he's Colonel Roy Campbell.
Yes. He's talking to Colonel Roy Campbell, and they're saying stuff like, he looks through his binoculars and he sees like a helicopter. He's like, a Hind D. And you don't know what that means. Obviously, from context, you're like, oh, it's the helicopter, right? But it's stuff like that where the characters will just start talking and start using jargon and trying and just communicating very naturally for them, and you standing as an outsider, that I think provides an interesting perspective in the game. Because Kojima is not expecting you to, like, take on the role of Snake, to be Snake. Snake distinguishes himself from the player almost immediately. Snake knows things you don't know, and he has a life that you don't know anything about. And though his actions are yours, the responsibility of those actions are his. And you feel that throughout the game as it progresses. And the more they talk, the more things happen. Snake expresses his philosophy on things. He expresses what he thinks is going on, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the player, which is very unlike what you would see in modern days, where, everything's about like moral choice systems and things like that. So it's really interesting later when these things start coming up, when, Autocon's like, oh, can love bloom on the battlefield? It's like, Snake has an answer to that. He has something to say on that, and it may not be what you have to say on that. And it invites you to think about what's going on screen. It invites you to think about what Snake is saying and what everybody else is saying and how you feel about that, and to reflect on the game in a way that most games don't ask you to do anymore.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that I like about the early Kojimas, which is really just Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3, to be quite honest, is the pacing between switching between gameplay and having that gameplay kind of inform some of the story as well, and going from conversations and plot and dialogues, feels appropriate. Like you've done enough, and it's now time to talk about something to kind of recontextualize or further contextualize what we've already been doing and make us kind of think about those things, either, retrospectively or moving forward with how our actions are conveying this, not just the story, but like thinking of the issues that are weighing on the characters in the game. A pretty common theme throughout all the games that I've already mentioned is Snake is just taking orders in Metal Gear Solid 1. And after this game, chronologically wise, he and his friend Otacon just go off and do whatever they think is right.
Yeah.
They start to fight for what they believe in. In other Metal Gear games, you have a lot of characters talking about, what can be a generic conversation point of we're being pawns of the government, but can be an engaging kind of point where it's, where is the honor in fighting? If you're only just going to do what other people say and you have no way to verify if what they want you to do is good or bad, why are you doing it? Are you just doing it from love of your country? You know what I mean?
Yes.
They kind of specifically depict, and I think rightly so, nationalism as a bad thing in Metal Gear.
Yeah.
And so I mean, kind of got a little tangent here, but I think Metal Gear Solid 1, after every boss fight, not after every boss fight, but after the ones in the later half of the game, they kind of start talking about why they were doing what they were doing. And it makes you kind of look at these people as not just pure antagonism. I'm an evil guy and I told your baby. Like everyone in Resident Evil 4.
Right.
You know, they're people who did things for a reason. And then you have to think about, well, what's Snake doing? How valuable Snake is doing. I get that we're trying to like save the world from a nuke or whatever, but also what the main characters of the game are doing, or the villains of the game are doing, Liquid Snake and all those people, there are arguments for their plans.
Yeah, and full spoilers past this point if you want to play the game. But we later learn that the nuke that we're trying to save, all of this has kind of been orchestrated or at least controlled to some degree, like by the government that we work for. You know, in this case, America. But America's goal is not to just stop the nuclear launch; it is to take over the island. You know, is to gain control of the nuclear launch and thus gain power over the world. And that's an important note because we also see that coming through in Metal Gear Solid 2 later. But the idea that the powers that be do not have our interests at heart. Not the people that work for them, not the people that they work for. The powers that be exist to control and create more power for themselves. And that's a big takeaway from Metal Gear Solid 1 as a whole.
One of the reasons I think 1 works, and not 2 so much, or 4, and, you know, whatever. The games that work, I think, really focus on this, is they focus on understanding the important characters who will be in the story throughout the game, and using an exploration of their personalities to kind of get deep dives into the things that we're kind of talking about and focusing on. So, without getting too caught in the mud of exactly the logistics of whatever absurd conspiracy plot that we're peddling out this game. A good example of that is early in the game, you meet the DARPA chief, who don't know what that stands for, but get used to that. Get used to that. They say it. It's like the Department of like Presidential Tech, Arms Tech.
Sure, yeah.
You know, something like that.
He's the guy that does the guns for the president.
Sure, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. You know, you're never quite sure if these things are actually real acronyms or not.
Yeah.
But you have a conversation with him, and it's mostly plot-centric, and it's mostly there to kind of set up mysteries and cliffhangers and stuff. But that's not what the important part of the theme is. Right after he dies, because reasons, the girl in the cell next to you, Meryl, who's the daughter, or the niece of the colonel, doesn't super matter, escapes from her cell and has to actually kill people. And she hesitates. And there's basically Snake being like, this is not a simulation, this is real life. You just have to like commit and pull the trigger. And it's an interesting moment in a game where you kind of go around choking people to death. Yeah. That early on, the story kind of shows a character who just can't do that. Yeah. From the get-go. And kind of how, to Snake, it's completely reflexive action at this point. But also Snake, who's been in the field long enough, understanding that it's not true like that for everyone, right? And having a character in the story that reflects something like, maybe I shouldn't just be excited to shoot people who will disappear. The polygons will disappear from my screen as I play. I should consider the enemies as human beings, not just a video game adversary. It's already much different than like most games that have existed up to that point.
Yeah, we actually see this in Metal Gear Solid 2. There are like some sort of side missions that you can play. I don't know if this came when they did the remaster of it all, but
I'm almost positive it didn't.
Maybe not, but they're called Snake Tales, and you can play a Snake and his infiltration of the Big Shell, which is the area for Metal Gear Solid 2.
Spoilers, you're not Snake for most of Metal Gear Solid 2.
People were kind of mad about.
Something you might not realize.
But in Snake Tales, you start out by like finding Ames, who's like a presidential assistant, and Ames is like, "Oh, you're Solid Snake, the legendary hero. You killed all those terrorists on the boat. You saved all of us." And the tanker is the boat that he's referring to, is the first part of the game. And yeah, you just go through and you kind of kill everybody and you're taking out terrorists. But when Ames says that, he's like, you're a hero. You're the legendary hero Snake. And because in Snake Tales, everything's communicated through text, you actually get to see Snake think. And he's like, oh, you mean that literal boatload of bodies that I created? I'd rather not talk about that, you know?
Yeah.
Snake, by Metal Gear Solid 2, already has essentially like PTSD about the things he's done as a soldier and as a freedom fighter. Because that was his own op that he was doing. Snake is like actively, sacrificing himself like his own moral compass, his own concept of what's right to try to save the world in probably a pretty backwards way. But it's interesting to see how these things affect Snake, and that all starts with Meryl being like, I don't even know how to kill people. But also, Meryl, we find out, is the kind of person that she was like, I am a military brat. I was raised in a military family. All I wanted as a kid was to grow up to be a soldier, to be a great soldier, you know? Mm-hmm. And now that she's in the position to do it, she's like, I don't know how. You know, I don't know if I can do it. It's interesting because I think Snake has never had that problem.
Yeah.
You know, Snake is like, actually, being a soldier is the only thing I've ever been good at. It's the foundation of my life. Yeah. And seeing somebody who can't do it, I think that, exactly as you said, it reflects back on him.
And it reflects onto the other theme that comes up a lot, is Snake a good soldier because he was born with solid Snake genes?
Or Big Boss genes.
Yeah, sorry. He's the clone. Or is he good because the scenarios that he was placed in made him this way?
Yes.
Right? And it's interesting because clearly Kojima is copping to a little bit of, our genes define us because, all the Snakes and Big Boss clones are good at murdering people.
They're really good at it.
But they're also all very different characters. Yeah. They're very distinct. And there's something that made Snake different than all of these people. And what is that? And why was that? It's an interesting thing explored throughout the whole series. Sometimes better, sometimes worse.
Right.
And I think, really is just the bulk of the solid Snake work. There's some good stuff on Big Boss and 3 and 5 or whatever, but we don't see a lot of really good character development of Solid Snake in really any other game but Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't really even exist outside of just 1 and 4.
Yeah, I mean he's in 2 the whole time, but he's there as a foil for our new main character.
Yeah.
And in 4, he's weird. It's just weird. He's old now. He looks like Jeff Foxworthy. Like, it's just weird. And then you're like, I've been super aging the whole time. And you're like, when did you tell me this? And why didn't you say it louder?
Yeah, they kind of mention it in Metal Gear Solid 1, but it's not obvious what they mean.
No, they mention it in 2. Liquid Snake says, you're drowning in time, brother. Yeah. And literally, that's all we get in any of the games before 4, and to be like, oh, he's aging. And it's like, why is he aged so much? It's like, remember when Liquid said he's drowning in time? And it's just like, I don't know, you could have, had any character have any moment of being like, oh, you're drowning, you're aging quickly. We should consider this.
Your genes are bad.
A fact that affects our lives.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you had a family, right? And your little brother had Benjamin Button disorder.
Right.
You'd feel like it would come up, in conversation kind of a lot.
What if instead you just spend his whole life telling him that he's just weird? That, nothing he does makes sense?
Yeah, you're just eventually you're going to, we all look like old men when we're babies.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Figure it out.
Yeah, in this game, the central problem between Liquid and Solid... It's hard to talk about this. Yeah. Oh, but Liquid Snake, who
Kojima should put more effort into naming his characters than Blaseball does into naming divisions. Because that literally wasn't. It was Solid Evil and Solid Good, and Liquid Evil and Liquid Good. That's just the Metal Gear naming system. And they used it to name divisions in a fake splort. That might be confusing to anyone who doesn't know what Blaseball is.
Oh, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it in this podcast, I promise you. We're going to talk about some Blaseball. So, but the central problem between Liquid Snake and Solid Snake is that they are clones of Big Boss, who was the legendary hero. The Big Boss is representative, metaphorically, of the great soldier. The guy who just does the right thing, right? When you need something to happen as a country, Big Boss is your guy. Now,
was based off Sean Connery.
Yep.
The original Snake was based off Mel Gibson. Think about that for a while.
I'd rather not.
From Metal Gear, the MSX version, 1986.
In
1986, I was doing the monologues.
Was original Snake also anti-Semitic?
Unclear yet.
Unclear. They didn't talk
just like it was for Mel Gibson at the time. But probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah. But the central problem between Liquid and Solid is that
Is one getting too old for this shit?
Liquid...
See, that was a Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson.
Oh, okay.
They're connected.
That Liquid wants... Or he says, I got all the recessive genes from Big Boss. And, like, okay, that doesn't mean anything. That's bad.
Yeah, recessive genes don't mean, like, they're the bad genes.
Yeah.
They just means there's the genes less likely to express themselves in your DNA code.
Yeah. There's not a moral foundation. There's not a physical foundation for what it... Well, there's a physical. But, like, I mean, there's not, like...
It's
not like saying recessive genes are bad in any way.
That's like if Ben Shapiro was a fucking DNA guy where he's like, I don't need these beta boy cuck soy milk genes. I need the genes to make their opinion known.
Man, Liquid would be like a big follower of like Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
He'd be watching that shit all day.
Yeah, because he's like, I should nuke someone, and they're like, they agree with me on television. What a weird point to be making.
I'm gonna take over an island in Alaska.
Yeah, we should kill all the Kurds.
But yeah, so he's like, he's mad about that.
I did make a bunch of Sarah Palin jokes because they're in Alaska. Like in my head, you know, I think at one point they're like the governor of Alaska. It's just so funny to think of Sarah Palin affecting their mission. Sorry to constantly interrupt you. Okay. Welcome to Metal Gear.
I'll get through this. So he thinks his genes are bad, and he's mad about that. His idea is that Solid Snake, who looks just like Big Boss and everything, he got all the good genes, all the dominant genes, and it makes him the best. But still, Liquid's like, he's pretty fit, and he's like willing to go toe-to-toe in a fist fight with
because
Solid
actually
Snake.
He got all the dominant genes.
Oh,
it was a lie the whole time.
Big spoilers. He got all the dominant genes. But
it kind of doesn't mean anything.
Well,
like they say that at the end of one, and then you're like, okay, and it never comes up again or means anything.
Well, it does mean something, but it's the fact that genes in this case are used as a metaphor for your ability to like self-determine.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas Snake, who doesn't really know anything about his past, he doesn't know he's a clone of Big Boss. He doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't know he supposedly got all the dominant genes, or even what that means or why it would matter. That's not the point of Snake. Snake is just living the life he's trying to live, and he's learning and growing through his own actions. Whereas Liquid is a man who's defined by his past, who's defined by the things that he thinks make him. In this case, his genes. Yeah. He knows that he's a clone of somebody else, and that really got into his head. And now he's like, did I get the good genes? Am I good enough clone? And the answer is, you decide if you're good enough. Liquid decided that he wasn't. And so, you know, he wants to take his anger out on the whole world because he feels predetermined. He feels trapped in a system that is not of his making and doesn't care about him. That he's like, I am what I am and I can't change that. I have no choice in my life. And this is the core theme that we talk about in 2.
Does it ever bother you that, he saying, well, I got all the dominant genes and he got all the recessive genes? And it's like, so you didn't clone him then? That's just not how it works, you know? We divvied up the genes into 2 things, and we gave them some of his genes and some of those genes. Those are called children,
right?
Like,
who got the frog genes and the chameleon genes so they can turn invisible? Doing a Jurassic World reference here.
Oh, that's someone's gonna follow that one day. A movie that everyone saw once, maybe, and then forgot instantly. We have a different podcast on that.
That's a really good movie I want to talk about.
And then at the end of the fucking day, the guy who got half his genes is British and blonde and looks nothing like a Big Boss.
Yeah.
Like, it changed his freaking nationality.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a fake accent.
Yeah.
But as none of the clones of Big Boss look like him, except for, you know, Solid Snake, right? But beyond that, like...
excuse me, Ocelot said he's a spitting image of Big Boss talking to Solidus. Which is kind of true.
Is he, though?
Yeah, that's what Big Boss looks like.
I guess. But, like, doesn't he look like Snake? Solid Snake?
No, I mean, before that, all we see... If you're using when they just started doing 3 and 5 in the prequels, where they just made Solid Snake look or Big Boss look exactly like Solid Snake.
Yeah.
What we only saw before that was the Metal Gear 1 portrait and the Metal Gear 2 portrait, the 2D games on the MSX, where he just is based off Sean Connery and is like a white-haired guy with an eye patch.
Fair enough.
So like that's what he used to look like to everyone's. But then they made a game and they're like, we're just going to use the Snake model over and over again.
Yeah. I guess I'm taking it mostly from 3, where you actually play as Big Boss.
Yeah, and they just
it's exactly Solid Snake.
Yeah, I actually don't like that choice. I wish he just didn't look exactly like.
That's interesting. But it also kind
because like now Liquid makes no sense.
Yeah, right. But it also kind of makes my point for me.
Yeah.
Right? Which is that all of this genes nonsense is nonsense. Right? It doesn't matter, like, if you look like him, what genes you have, if you are Big Boss or you're not Big Boss or you're his kid. I mean, it's basically, at this point, it's like he just has kids.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And they're kinda like him, and they're kinda not. Because that's how genes work.
Yeah, it's really fun at the end just to pretend that, Liquid Snake's really into fashion. Cause he's just like shirtless talking about jeans all the time. It's like, you'll never have jeans as good as mine.
My jeans are Wranglers.
And it's like, brother, just leave me alone. don't really care about this. Look at my collection.
Brother! My jeans!
You must fit into my skinny jeans in 3 minutes and we'll all explode.
You have to tap triangle really, really fast to like get into the jeans.
Yeah, wiggle. That actually sounds like a fun game.
That would be fun. I could see that on like Newgrounds or something.
Yeah.
You know, way back in the day when
get into your skinny jeans so you can go to the AFI show.
A lot of people just turn off our podcast. Like, how dare you make fun of me like this?
Yeah. Back to Metal Gear.
You know, I don't use makeup the way other women do. I hardly ever look at myself in the mirror. I've always despised that kind of woman. I always dreamed of becoming a soldier. But I was wrong. It wasn't really my dream. My father, he was killed in action when I was younger.
You wanted to follow in your father's footsteps?
Not really. I thought that if I became a soldier, I could understand him better.
So are you a soldier yet?
I thought I was until today, but now I understand. The truth is, I was just afraid of looking at myself, afraid of having to make my own decisions in life. But I'm not gonna lie to myself anymore. It's time I took a long, hard look at myself. I want to know who I am, what I'm capable of. I want to know why I've lived the way I've lived until now. I want to know.
Take a good look. You won't get another chance for a while. You should wash your face, too, while you're at it.
Yeah.
This isn't a training exercise. Our lives are riding on this. There are no heroes or heroines. If you lose, you're worm food.
Yeah.
One thing in one I would say is every kind of pretty much main character kind of has a contribution to the game's thesis statement, where they'll have like kind of a scene where they talk and they focus on things. So to try to organize them, you have Meryl talking about being a soldier, where it's kind of focused on what reality is versus what your expectations are.
Yeah.
In soldiers. You have Otacon can love Bloom on the battlefield. Right. You have Gray Fox, the cyborg ninja, as he's dying, talking to Snake about not just being tools of the government and how we can still be soldiers because it's what we're good at, but how can we do it in, morally? Liquid talking about jeans for 2.5 days. It's really not one scene. It's just the entire end game.
Yeah, it is. It's just what Liquid does.
Yeah, and then you have various boss death scenes. I don't think Snake just kind of adds to everyone's point of view. Snake's never really looking at the camera, kind of like giving us his speeches about the way the world works. I think that kind of covers all the important, big thematic focal points of the game.
Right.
Did you want to talk about any of those?
All of them.
First. So one thing we kind of talked a lot about early, but I think it's the most kind of obvious to the player and, reinforced by the gameplay a lot, is the stuff in the Meryl conversation about kind of what it means to be a soldier.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you choke people, you hear the, like, you hear them choking. Like, it's kind of, it's a crappy PS1 noise, right? But, you're murdering people, as they are in a urinal and shit. You know what I mean? Like, you're forced to consider, what you're doing. And I think it's one of my first conversations of the game where I really think we're like grounding the story in the reality of who these people are. We're not just kind of jumping from mystery to mystery. Cause Meryl's opening up to Snake, right? And it's kind of the first time you've really been face to face with Meryl during this whole game. Mechanically, to even find her, you have to search for guards' butts to see which butt moves like a woman's. Yeah. Follow her to the women's bathroom where you have a whole speech and stuff.
Ooh, that really sounds bad when we just say it out of context.
That's that's how a lot of Kojima stuff sounds.
Yeah. But yeah, you do follow her to the woman's bathroom, and she changes out. She's disguised as a guard, so you have to sort of identify her.
Yeah.
Through other means, you know.
Very easy to kill.
And one of them, it's kind of interesting, I guess, because she is literally the only woman. Every other guard on the island is a man.
They're digital clones of Big Boss.
Yeah, it's like there is a woman's bathroom, but she's the only one that will ever use it. We can confidently say anybody that goes in that room is going to be Meryl. And that's interesting, at least.
Yeah, and you can't go in that bathroom until Meryl does.
Yeah.
Like, it literally won't let you.
Yeah, but then you do, and Meryl's like changed out of her guard uniform, and she's looking for a pep talk from Snake, but to do that, she has to sort of divulge her whole backstory, which involves a lot of conversation about her struggling with being a woman in like a man's world, you know, in the male-centric military life. She's like, okay, my father was in the military, and I wanted to join the military. I wanted to be the great soldier, but there's also a part of me that's not that. And in this case, she kind of refers to it as the feminine part of her. It's like, I don't want any part of this. I want to be something else. I want to be I want to be a woman. I want to wear makeup and do stuff like that, but I also want to be a soldier on the battlefield.
Well, I mean, sort of. I mean, what she says is, I never did that. Like, I never had that. That part of my life was stripped away as childhood.
Yes.
I don't think it's necessarily just saying, I wish I had all those things. It's just kind of like the reality of like, but I didn't. And I didn't get to have these normal experiences. And then I finally get to the world that I was building towards, and it's ugly.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the thing, is it's like, people always, when they meet Snake, are always talking to him about a hero, including Meryl. You know, this legendary hero. And Snake, not a single time, ever revels in it. He's always dismissive of it. And is more or less like, you don't understand. I did my job, and then I went home, and I didn't feel good about it.
Yeah.
Because right after that, you and Meryl go kill Psycho Mantis. And Solid Snake's response to Psycho Mantis's, death wail is Psycho saying, put the mask on me. I want to be alone with my thoughts. Because apparently without the mask, his thoughts can just reach into everyone's mind. And there's a lot, like, Snake in two different ways in that scene basically says, these are his last wishes. I'm here to respect them.
Yes.
Like, this is an immensely evil guy. Of all the Foxhound people, you can argue Psycho Mantis is the most evil and depraved and
yeah, absolutely.
Right? But as he dies, you listen to his story that humanizes him, even though the story involves him burning down the village that his family lived, like killing his dad and killing everyone inside.
Right.
Like, that's the story he tells. Yet, you still feel more sympathetic to him. And Snake is relating to that character. And that speaks a lot, right? To continue, to keep going on this aside, there's the second part of the Meryl conversation, where right after Psycho Mantis' speech, Meryl, very somberly in all of her deliveries of the lines, is kind of like, do you have any friends? Do you have any family? Do you have anything you wake up in the morning for? What is in your life, Snake? And he's like, there's no time for things on the battlefield. Which will get used to Snake saying, no answer for those questions on the battlefield. That's just what he does all the time.
But it's also because he has no answer to those questions.
Yeah.
Because like the answer is quite sadly no. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't have a life, right? Because a life on the battlefield is not a life. It is an experience created by someone else. It is a system of orders that you have to take and tasks you have to do. And it's a way to avoid living. And that's the central struggle that Meryl is working against, is the fact that for her whole life, she looked up to being a soldier. And then when she got there, she realized there's nothing in it. She gets into the field and she finally realizes that everything she gave up was more meaningful and could have created a life for her. Whereas when you become a soldier, when you get onto the battlefield, there is literally nothing to be gained. There's only loss.
Yeah.
And that's what we see in every other major boss.
Yeah, it's interesting because with Snake specifically, you know, during these conversations, right, you know, he says he has nothing, but he does talk about one thing that he kind of cares about outside the world of I'm a spy and doing sneaking stuff, where he's now an Alaskan dog musher.
Yeah.
Right? And I honestly think it's kind of interesting because it's like, he's in Alaska training dogs, and the beginning of the whole game is very much, again, Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit. Like, that's all Snake says at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is the Murdaugh, you know, like, I'm too old for this shit. Like, I've retired. I'm mushing my dogs. Like, how dare you bring me back? And it's like, you're the only one who can do it, Snake. You have to do it. You know, kind of thing. And at first, it's kind of set up as, in my opinion, just Lethal Weapon nonsense, right? But, like, later, when the game actually makes you kind of consider who these people are more than you probably first thought, it's interesting to think what Snake's life like is outside of this, and how even if everything he does is murdering people, he can still be a nurturing character. Just because you go around shooting people doesn't mean you can take care of, like, a bunch of dogs and or wolves.
Yeah, and that's actually interesting from, like, a meta perspective, because you as a player go into the game just thinking, I'm playing the soldier character. You know, I'm here to do a mission. Yeah. And that's your objective. And then you learn stuff like, this character I'm playing is a dog musher. That's just a thing that he does in his off time. A thing we'll never see. And also, it's like the last screen in the game. You know, when they're doing the credits, you just see a guy, you know, mushing dogs through the snow. And it's just this reminder that, like, there is a world outside of this, you know, combat zone, this battlefield.
Asking the most important question of the series, in my opinion. Can you mush off into the sunset? Is that a grammatically correct way of explaining that action?
It would be too bright.
I don't get it.
So the sun reflects off snow, and snow becomes really bright. So if you wanted to mush directly into the sun, that would be a problem.
It was not really the question I was asking.
Sorry, I thought you wanted an answer.
I wanted an answer about the language part of it.
Can you mush dogs on the battlefield?
Yes. Right?
It's probably happened, right?
Yeah, almost certainly.
Speaking of dogs, these ideas culminate, I think...
I gave you such a better transition and we did that.
These ideas, I think, culminate really well with the Sniper Wolf fight. So Meryl gets sniped by Sniper Wolf, and she's not dead. She gets like sniped in the legs and the pelvis. It's pretty violently brutal.
Yeah, pretty common when you get she gets sniped in the pelvis. In the Twin Snakes edition, they involved shooting her knees and arms as well. They were like, man, we haven't sniped her enough.
You're just like pretty sure she's gonna die, but. Snake has to leave and go find a sniper rifle somewhere in the level so that he can counter sniper. By the time he gets back, Meryl's gone. They've like captured her. I guess she's just fine. But Snake also gets captured, and we meet Sniper Wolf, and she's like a dog in the way she talks about things. She's like, I've marked you for my prey. And Ocelot is in the background being like, when Sniper Wolf has marked you, she always finds her kill. Sometimes she even falls in love with them before she kills them. And you're like, what? I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
But eventually you do have to get in a sniper battle with her. And
seems like the worst trait to have as a sniper, right? Is just falling in love with the person you're aiming at.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about that. So, so we get to we defeat Sniper Wolf in the sniper battle, and she's laying on the snow. And she has to have a big, long monologue. And, of course, she talks about her past.
I was born on the battlefield. Raised on the battlefield.
Which is...
Gunfire.
She was just a kid.
Screams.
A civilian.
They were my lullabies.
A brutal war that took everything from her. It took her
hunted like dogs, day after day.
Everything. And all she did all day was just try to survive. And she's like, I would wake up... I would go to sleep with my family, and I would wake up.
That's my life. Each morning, I'd wake up and find a few more of my family or friends dead beside me. I'd stare at the morning sun and pray to make it through the day. The governments of the world turned a blind eye to our misery. But then, he appeared. My hero. Saladin. He took me away from all that.
Saladin? You mean Big Boss?
I became a sniper. Hidden. Watching everything through a rifle's scope. Now I could see war. Not from inside, but from the outside. As an observer. I watched the brutality, the stupidity of mankind through the scope of my rifle. I joined this group of revolutionaries to take my revenge on the world. But I have shamed myself and my people. I am no longer the wolf I was born to be. In the name of vengeance, I sold my body and my soul. Now I am nothing more than a dog.
Wolves are noble animals. They're not like dogs. In Yupik, the word for wolf is Keglanek, and the Aleuts revere them as honorable cousins. They call mercenaries like us dogs of war. It's true. We're all for sale at some price or another. But you're different. Untamed. Solitary. You're no dog. You're a wolf.
I feel like I have to look up if Sniper Wolf is Raiden's mom right now. Right? Like, it just, like, that just sounds like it might be. Continue. It's
could be, I suppose.
Just sounds like a Metal Gear thing to be true.
But she is emblematic of all of the bosses in which they tend to have just been, like, severely traumatized by war. And that's generally what humanizes them, is the fact that, like, they're not out here because they're intelligent people making intelligent decisions. They're out here because they are damaged people, just trying to find anything that makes sense to them. She grew up in a war. She grew up knowing only how to kill and only how to lose. And she's really just looking for someone to end that suffering. And that's
a character in 2. It's her whole point. She just wants to get shot and end up her suffering end.
Yeah.
They're probably direct parallels on purpose.
Yes, many of them are. Because again, 2, ostensibly, it's weird to say, but 2 really is just a rehash of 1.
Kind of purposely in for plot reasons.
In plot reasons, but at the same time, like thematically, it's also very much the same. Right? Because they're dealing with the same problems of war and being a soldier and being the ideas of self-motivation versus being controlled, you know?
Yeah. Sequels to games are really interesting because it really asks you what you think your game did well.
Yeah, exactly.
Sequels to good games. You know, clearly a lot of things that work in 1s are these new ideas. So you're going to want to try a lot of new ideas in 2, you know, because they worked in your first game. So it's interesting to see what in 1 was drastically different and when 2 was drastic, whatever you're saying. The things that were drastically different in 2 show, well, we think this thing might have been good. And things that are the same are things they thought were already good. I think it's interesting for what we can look at what a developer thought was good and how it worked in the first game. And
are you familiar with the story of Job?
Yeah, we talk about Job.
So the story of Job is really interesting, especially in this context. And, you know, buckle up. It all started in 1983. No, it all started in God times in the Bible. So Job was God's best disciple. Everything in his life was great, and it's because, well, it's possibly because he was so darn faithful. And God's up on his mountain and he's looking at Job, and Satan shows up and he says, "Hey God, I bet Job wouldn't praise your name so much if you just smited the hell out of him." And God's like, "You're on. You can take Job. Do whatever you want. You can kill his family, burn his crops, you know, cover his body in boils, right? Just leave him just kind of like this writhing mass of pain and agony and suffering. Just don't kill him. And we'll see. We'll see if he still is faithful to me. And so Satan does that. He kills Job's family. He burns down his house. He burns his crops. He gives him boils all over his body and literally leaves him on the ground, just in pain for days and days and days. And all of Job's friends start coming by, as you do. And they're like, Job, what did you do? How do you piss off God this much? And Job's like, I didn't do anything. I swear. And they're like, you must have done something. Like, God doesn't just smite people for no reason. What have you been up to? You know? And Job's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And the whole time, he still refuses to go against God. He's not like, damn you, God, for everything this horrible thing that's happened to me. He's just like, I just don't understand. I really don't get it. I didn't do anything. And finally, after a few days, he asked the question out loud. He's like, God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you done this? And God decides to answer. But he doesn't like come down to Job as a man. He doesn't come down on his level and be like, Job, I can't explain what's happened to you in a way that would be satisfactory, but I'm going to make everything right. Understand that your suffering has been a great service to me, has been meaningful. No, God comes down as a storm, as an elemental conflux of power and might. And he says to Job,
I hear it's amazing when the famous purple stuffed worm in Flapjaw Space with the tuning fork does a raw blink on Harry Carey Rock. I need scissors. 61.
I always wonder if he picked that because it broke Roger Maris. That was the number of home runs Roger Maris hit to break Babe Ruth's record.
Why would he need scissors for that?
Just 61. It's like that. That's so significant. Like there's a movie called 61. It was such just a really big deal.
Maybe so.
I mean, it seems so unlikely, but also it's just like that's what 61 is. That's the significance of that number. There's nothing with the word 61 in it that's more important than Roger Maris hit that home run.
Well, let me put it this way. What we just heard was a quote from the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, in which the Colonel is starting to lose his mind because the Colonel turns out to be a simulation, literally created by the Shadow Government, the Illuminati, the Patriots. And a virus has been uploaded into his computer programming that is making him kind of lose his mind. And he's just saying nonsense, right? So, like, the concept of 61 could in fact just simply be nonsense, right? The point is it may not have any significance at all. And the reason I say that's what God says is because what God actually says to Job is, fuck you, Job. How dare you question me? I am God. I created all things. Everything you are is mine. You don't own things. I can't take your family from you. It is mine. I cannot give you boils. I give myself boils because you are mine. Job, everything you are or could be or have ever been is mine. Fuck you. Don't ever question me again. And of course, Job is a coward and is like, yes, God, but also God is a giant storm all around him. And frankly, that's intimidating,
Kind of like my wife and my...
why'd he bite me?
I just haven't talked in a while.
And the idea, Job is like, sure, that makes sense to me. And from a theology perspective, this idea has often been used to show like the supremacy of God, that like, if something bad happens, I'm paraphrasing, don't take this as a literal concept of the philosophy. Look stuff up for yourself. But the idea is that if God does it, if God did create everything and part of everything is being good, then God is all good. Everything he does is good. And if you suffer misfortune, it is good because God did it, right? That's a big paraphrasing, and you shouldn't take that at face value because you're going to misunderstand it. But let's talk about the Garages for a minute. So the Garages are a band that sing about the game Blaseball.
God, this is the most Kojima experience ever. The other player, hasn't done anything, and you literally also said, please read a book in between this?
Shh. I'm not done. I'm talking about the Garages. So the Garages recently released an album called Discipline, which covers the first era of Blaseball, known as the Discipline era, right? The reason it's called Discipline is because the players opened the Forbidden Book, and the gods got real mad about that, and they came down to the actual world and they started smiting people. The umpires gain the ability to incinerate people on an eclipse, and they do it a lot. And what?
This is a text-based... For those unaware, this is a text-based game that incorporates eldritch horror elements with baseball and simulates games to tell stories. It's a weird concept.
Right, and so the great shelled one, the peanut god, comes down and he starts shelling different players and stuff like that. And he, as the Garages say in their songs,
restraint? These fans don't know the meaning of the word. With the book open and the umps fired up, the shelled one has demanded we learn discipline. But fans and players alike have declared war on the gods. That's right, every single god.
The gods demand discipline because they make the rules of Blaseball. They come down and they say, this is how things work. This is how things are going to be. And this is what you can and can't do. And the Garages come out with another song that's called Fight Gods. Probably their most popular song. I don't know offhand, but it seems like it would be.
Yeah, we've went in a lot of different directions.
No. We're drawing a circle.
Yeah, you have Metal Gear Solid 2 brain right now. You're like, it's all connected if every concept gets its own thing to monologue about.
Yes. But in the song Fight Gods, they're talking about how the gods are, annihilating other players. And they say,
you're gonna light us on fire and expect nothing to happen like it doesn't matter. That's not the way this works. You can't just lift the ones we love away from us like it doesn't matter.
You can't just lift the ones you love away from us like it doesn't matter. And that's an interesting concept when we think back to Job, right? God is all powerful. He makes everything. He owns everything. Nothing we do in that concept of what we call like the platonic good, the ideal version of good. Nothing we do in that world matters. And the Garages are putting forward a radical idea that, in fact, what we do, what we want, whether it is good or not, or in line with what God thinks it is the way things should be, you can't just lift the ones you love away from us like it doesn't matter. They're actively saying you cannot be good without caring about the people that matter in the situation. That good is, even if we ascribe an objective good in the universe, you can't have it without a subjective morality that requires you to care about the people around you, to care about the people that are affected by your actions. And this is something we call care ethics that was created in the 1980s.
I want to go back to playing Dark Souls so bad. You're talking about want, and I'm like, I'm almost at the throne of want.
Don't forget the context. We're talking about Sniper Wolf. So, care ethics essentially is exactly what I said, which is a branch of ethics that says moral action requires that it be done in the service of caring for another moral being. By which I mean, it's not simply stopping at a stop sign isn't good. It's good if you do it because you care about, whether or not you'll run someone down if you don't, something like that, right? There's ideas of self-care. There's ideas of caring about the people around you with your actions, directly or indirectly. And it's this idea that we can only do something moral if it involves caring about another moral being. Otacon, while Sniper Wolf is dying, runs out.
Why? I loved you.
And he's crying. And he's like, I loved her. And she's dying. And it's like, Otacon, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't even know her. She's not a person that's capable of love. I know Ocelot said she falls in love with her victims. That's not what love is, What are you talking about? And Otacon's just crying, and he's like,
Snake, you said that love could bloom on the battlefield. But I couldn't save her.
Snake, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? And this question is what spawned all this, right? Because let's think back what we understand about a battlefield, right? It's an impersonal thing. Everyone on there is there to kill one another, to survive, to follow orders, to be nothing of themselves, to care nothing about one another. We see this more when we talk about Solid Snake and Gray Fox, who are both, they are literally friends. And at one point, Snake was like, well, we fought together in the last war. And Meryl was like, and you're trying to kill each other now? And Snake's just like, yeah, it's just the business.
Yeah, well, he has like, last time I saw him, we met, we're fighting bare-fisted in a minefield. It's so funny because it's in Metal Gear 2 itself, but it's like, there's little like circle sprites on the ground that are mines you can't walk on, and it just looks like the most like worse graphics than Battletoads.
Oh, God.
You know, you're just like just little punches going forward. We're like just an arm extending animation. Like, you know, we played Mike Tyson Punch Out one time.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we're forever. It's always just so funny where they're homaging a thing that just visually can't convey what they were trying to go for.
Yeah. But the idea is like, a battlefield is a place where connections don't matter anymore. Where everyone that gets hurt arbitrarily. That friends can be friends here, and then on the next battlefield, they're enemies because it's an impersonal thing. It's not theirs, and there's no connection there. And if we ascribe this sort of care ethics that we see in, you know, the Music of the Garages, and we see in Blaseball, how that community, like the Blaseball community is a really wholesome community, you know? If we ascribe those ethics to the battlefield, we can factually say that no, love cannot bloom on the battlefield. It is not a place of love because it is not a place of connection. We only gain connection through the rejection of the battlefield, which is what we see afterwards when Snake decides to go off on his own. Yes, he kind of keeps choosing battlefields, but like they're his battlefields, you know?
Well, that connects to the thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, which is my favorite line of the game, where Gray Fox goes to save you from Metal Gear Rex, you know?
Right.
And then he gets pinned against the wall, and Liquid is just doing a classic Metal Gear villain thing of like, do you know about jackals and rabbits? One of them hunts the other, and you pinned like a jack. It's an analogy with our names and our code names.
It's not a great analogy because I do have to explain it.
Yeah. But while he's pinned, the cockpit opens to the Metal Gear Rex, and you have a stinger you can fire it right at Liquid, right? But you can't because your friend Gray Fox is in the way, who's now monologuing at you.
Snake, we're not tools of the government or anyone else. Fighting was the only thing I was good at. But at least I always fought for what I believed in. Snake, farewell.
But there's one line he says really specifically that I think sticks out to the thesis of who Snake is, where he says, he has this weird hoarse voice that like makes all, like, it has that Darth Vader quality to it,
yeah.
Right? Where it's like, he is broken and made of machines because the life he led. And he looks at Snake and is like, the only thing that I ever was good at is fighting. But I never fought for something I didn't believe in. Which is somewhat paraphrased, but the more or less, it's really interesting because you establish the initial point of we are soldiers. It is what we're good at. It's what we were designed to do. We're never not going to be soldiers based on the way we've chosen and have lived our lives.
Yeah, and
right?
literally because they were clones of the greatest soldier, and that
not Gray Fox, but yes.
Okay, not Gray Fox. Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of take it outside of the context of the clones and all that stuff, right? Where it's like, sometimes you just are a soldier. You were built and you've learned and you've prepared to be that. And that's all you know and all that sort of stuff. But how can you find fulfillment in a thing that is inherently meant to not be fulfilling?
Yeah.
Because at the best, you're doing the bidding of gods who could care less about you.
Exactly.
Who will kill you to make a point to some other higher being that isn't you, like Job and God. You know what I mean? Where Snake shows up carrying a virus that's supposed to kill everyone and then die himself.
Right.
That's what the government's plan for him was, don't go in there and be a hero. Go in here and give everyone COVID.
Yeah, be a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the idea that, again, that's why I've compared God to, Colonel Campbell in the second game. Is it Colonel Campbell?
It's Roy Campbell.
Roy, in the second game too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's sort of.
But that's why I've compared God to it, because he's just the one, like, issuing orders, and it doesn't really matter what the reasons are. Like, you could think in some ways the Patriots have good reasons. You can think about real wars and be like, well, there's good reasons often to fight real wars, not lately, but sometimes, ideally, there could be reasons. Yeah. But
name every just war. Go.
And we're done. So the point is, war can never, according to this concept of care ethics that I'm now espousing, war can never be a moral action, because it can never consist of any kind of action that's like connecting. It doesn't. It's only through the rejection of war can we connect at all.
And that's the thing. The last kind of theme that we haven't touched on a ton, but that connects really well to, is all about nukes. Yes. Nukes are interesting because the idea is you're never gonna like shoot a nuke at someone and afterwards be like, that was a good thing we did that.
I'm glad we shot that nuke.
And this is a Japanese game developed by Japanese people who grew up in the aftermath of the only nuking ever.
Yeah. Kojima was born in the 60s, in the middle of the Cold War, and I don't know how much that affected him. Like, I don't want to say, what Kojima was thinking, but
also he said nuke 50,000 times.
Yeah, like, this game is about nukes.
Yeah.
Quite explicitly. The last thing I think you see is a count. It just goes to a black screen and it talks about the actual amount of nukes that were in the world during that time period, He's like, it's 2001 and there's this many nukes in the world, and that's it. Like, that's the last thing he wants you to take away from the game.
Yeah.
Is the idea that there's too many nukes.
And the whole idea of a Metal Gear is it's nukes that mercenaries can get access to and have a deployable nuke silo anywhere on the planet, because you have a walking robot that can do it.
Yeah, the Metal Gear in this game, the big robot has a railgun, and that's what can fire the nuke.
But even before that, like even in Metal Gear 1 and 2, the idea was you can just have this thing walk to any place on the planet, and it can fire nukes, and it doesn't have to be. We don't have to know where the nukes are, and like that's something we should think about. It's like, well, what happens when anyone can have a nuke? What would the world look like?
Yeah. And the same thing was true in 3 when they made the Shagahod, the original sort of concept of a Metal Gear, where it's like, its only thing was that you can deploy it. It's kind of just a big tank, and it acts like a railgun. It just goes to a really high speed and just throws a missile, Yeah. And they were like, well, with this, because, back in the Cold War, which is what 3 is all about, the biggest threat to the world was ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
And they could only hit some places in the world, depending on where they launched from. And the Shagahod from Metal Gear Solid 3 could be deployed anywhere and launch a nuke from anywhere to anywhere.
Yeah.
And
there's a character talking about, they didn't go with my design, that was a bipedal mech.
Yeah.
Their thing isn't as good as my thing, because their thing requires a runway.
Yeah.
Right? I could just have a nuke robot in the mountains.
And thus Metal Gear. Right?
Yeah.
It's what we're dealing with in Metal Gear Solid 1. But the idea of nukes in general, not just that they're the most powerful weapon in the world, like, that's not what makes nukes scary, and I don't think it's what makes them thematically interesting in this game. It's the fact that a nuclear strike anywhere is inherently the most impersonal military attack you could ever launch.
Yeah.
Right? Because a nuke doesn't kill a target.
No one firing a nuke could possibly be a legend or a hero.
Yeah.
Like Snake is.
And beyond that, like, a nuke can never be controlled. It can't kill just its target. It's not a sniper rifle. It is a nuke. You will, if you ever launch one, you 100% are guaranteeing thousands and thousands of civilian casualties.
Yeah.
It is a thing that just destroys everything around it, and it becomes a totalizing metaphor for war in this game. That's what war does. We see it with Sniper Wolf's backstory. We see it with Gray Fox's backstory. I'm forgetting some bosses, but the idea is like all these people.
It's really just Mantis and Vulcan left.
Yeah, I guess. Mantis is a bit weird too. But the fact is, every time we turn to war, we see war in this game. We see war as this hugely destructive thing, and that's all it does. Is it destroys everything it touches, like a nuke.
Yeah, and you know it's interesting too because it makes the players kind of reflect on things. Like there's this whole hidden codec conversation you can have that's just really kind of about Chernobyl, and Chernobyl is I think one of those really interesting events where I think the average American knows that it exists, knows that it happens, can understand why it's a super fucked up thing that's happened in the world's history. But I don't think a lot of people take time to think about it.
Seems like you're pretty focused on that issue.
Victims of nuclear radiation are a sad thing to see, and I have seen a lot of it. I have seen more than enough of it. I was born and raised in Pripyat, Ukraine. I was 10 years old on that day, April 26, 1986.
You don't mean...
Yes, Chernobyl. That is the day that changed my life and thousands of other lives. I live just 3 kilometers north of there. 600,000 to 700,000 people were evacuated. Over 650,000 children suffered the effects of radiation poisoning. Between 1986 and 1993, 12,000 children died. My parents, and many others like them who helped in the cleanup, died a few years later from radiation sickness. We must rid this world of all nuclear weapons before they cause more misery. Before they destroy the delicate environment that keeps us alive. I will not allow this pain and anxiety to pass on to yet another generation.
So what the implication of that is, just the danger of having nuclear power, nonetheless weapons.
Yeah. I will say, I'm highly in favor of nuclear power in general, and we should do that more. But Chernobyl is an example of things going very wrong.
Yes, but it makes me want to think about that and see if I agree with that. But I mean, are you just saying because it's a cleaner resource?
It's cleaner and basically.
Is it cleaner resource?
Oh yeah, by a lot. Like nuclear power is incredibly safe. It's the safest source of power that we have. It is better than everything that we have.
There's no way it's a safer power than sunlight.
Well, sunlight isn't good enough, and wind isn't good enough.
Yeah.
We can't reasonably we can't reasonably draw enough power from those things.
I mean, I guess so, but also all the things that we seem to be drawing enough that we have to draw this power for seem to be killing everything.
Yeah, but nuclear power doesn't really do that.
Not just that. I mean, sort of like, we need all this power to fund all these phones and cryptocurrency and the internet. And
that's a different conversation.
Like the thing that we're powering is an infrastructure we built that maybe in of itself is bad.
True, but also just the ability to have electricity in your house.
Sure.
You can't build enough wind turbines or solar panels to make everybody have enough electricity to record their podcasts or whatever else.
Maybe our podcasts are a moral disposition on the world. And we should be considering that.
Yeah. But I think if you abstract any human
we're really metal. We're down the metal. This is exactly how it works. You have to consider if everything you're doing is actually been a bad thing this whole time.
Yeah, listener, consider if you're a moral failure on the world.
So, it's fucking stupid. You have to have that key card equipped whenever you want to go through doors. Am I right? I have the key card. Just open the door.
It's bad.
Instead of making me equip it.
We know the technology is there. It could just the doors could just do a check to see if you have the key card, but you have to have it equipped. That was a choice they made.
It was a bad choice.
It was a bad choice.
So there's a lot of gameplay stuff we could talk about with both of these games, and we will definitely touch on some gameplay in our fun and memorable lightning round section. But I think with Kojima specifically, it's just so much easier to talk about kind of what he's saying and what we can learn and, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, because it's just what makes him unique. It's what makes Kojima games unlike any others, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Speaking of worse, Metal Gear Solid 2.
Colonel,
There's definitely another intruder in here besides me.
That's not a possibility.
Not a team. Looks like a solo job.
One man.
We may not know who he is, but he managed to take care of every sentry in the area. They're all out cold. Whoever he is, he's got some skills.
We need to get an ID. But for now, you can take advantage of the situation and get to work. There's a terminal in front of the elevator. A node.
Did you say nerd?
Not nerd. Node.
Oh.
Metal Gear Solid 2, okay, so I had a history with this game. I was fully prepared to go into this game and just love the shit out of it. Because I played it as a kid, and I would consider it one of, like, the defining games that turned me into who I am today. Like, I wasn't that into games when I was a kid, but my parents, for, I think, like, Christmas, bought me Metal Gear Solid 2 because they don't understand how series work.
Well, honestly, for most games, that would be a fine choice.
Yeah, for sure. But the idea, they just bought me the second game in a series because they don't understand. They didn't make a choice. They just didn't understand how games work. But I played the shit out of 2, and I loved it. It was a game unlike anything I'd ever played before. Coming back to it, it's not that good.
Yeah.
But it's still, I would say, a game unlike any other game I've played before. Unless that game is Metal Gear Solid 1, then it's just like that.
I mean, it's not just quite just like that, but it depends on what you mean by that.
Thematically.
Yeah. But I don't, well, we'll talk about that more as we go forward, but I think that it has themes that just doesn't intertwine those scenes into the story like it does with 1.
No, it just says them explicitly over and over and over again.
Exactly.
But obviously the gameplay is very different, and the game itself is very different. And the main character is very different.
One thing that I'd say is a huge difference in how we're telling stories in 2, a little bit of it you can kind of give the game a break for, because, like, a lot of things during this time period, they had to redo a bunch of stuff because of 9/11.
Yeah.
So, 1, the game was rushed, and there was definitely that going on, but that happened with all games. The end of this game was going to be a ship crashing into the Statue of Liberty. So they just had to rework a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And because of that, among other problems, they took a lot of these kind of narratively driven scenes, or these exposition driven scenes, I guess is more accurate, and just turned them into codecs, which is the little green screen where they talk to each other. And it's just dialogue, no real cutscene.
Yeah, basically a phone call.
Yeah. And codecs in 1 really work. Like, you're transitioning between, like, long backtracking areas, and you get a phone call, and the phone call has a really good story and really good plot, and it makes you, think about the game, the world, the gameplay, and all that kind of stuff. The codecs worked really well, right? But in this game, codecs are bad for 3 different reasons. 1, they look bad. They just look worse. I don't know why we're in the future and we have worse looking codecs, but whatever. 2, this game uses codecs to tell you the way, like, the buttons, like, as tutorial shit, way more than it does into 1, that it's infuriating.
Yeah.
Even the little bit it does in 1 can be super frustrating. Like, early in 1, you get to a ladder, and they're like, press the action button to climb up a ladder. And you're just like, I mean, I could figure this out. To go back to our very first cast, we talked about that, where it's like, you would get to the first treasure chest in the game, and a menu would come up and be like, press the X button to open up treasure.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe you could just assume that the person playing this game isn't, like, the world's dumbest person in the history of time.
Yeah, and that's a scripted codec, and you might have used a ladder already. Like, distinctly possible you've already used a ladder, but it's scripted for this ladder in specific. It just feels stupid.
Yeah, and that's in 1, but in 2, it happens so often, and it's not always just control stuff, but it's codecs that are just there to put a marker on your map. Like, there is no markers on your map, but they're like, you should be heading to Strut C, and if you call them back, it's like, okay, now start hopping to Strut C, and it's like, the game already told me this through the story. Maybe they're trying to say, well, if you miss this, here's a hint. But that hint's already built into codecs, because you could always use codecs whenever you want. You can use a codec just to call someone, and they'll just tell you something. So you can put kind of hints and helpful information in there, and not force them onto the player. But the worst and most egregious uses of codecs is every time you meet a character who is kind of gatekeeping the plot, they're going to say, switch to nanomachines, and tap their ear. And then almost always 15 plus minutes of them explaining stuff that makes you mostly more confused as the game gets later and later. Even if you understand everything they're referring to, how they're referring, how they connect, you're still just like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Yeah, so much of it doesn't need to exist, and certainly doesn't need to be said in such explicit detail. And for the first like half of the game, you don't know what's going on at all. So the idea of this game is you play Raiden, who is just some soldier guy. You know, he shows up to an offshore oil cleanup facility called Big Shell.
And he's effeminate.
He is effeminate. People didn't like that.
It's funny because it's used to make fun of him for the whole series.
Yeah. But don't worry, they give him a sword later. So he becomes a badass.
Yeah. Also, multiple people grab his balls.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't?
I mean, don't. Audience and straight up assault.
It's okay, they're all war criminals. But sorry.
I want to be very clear, you can't sexually assault war criminals. Like, if you see Henry Kissinger on the street, you can't just cop a feel.
If you see Henry Kissinger on the street, you run, because he's dead.
Is he really?
I don't know. I assume?
I hope so. Let's check if Henry Kissinger's
Please
dead.
check if Henry Kissinger's dead.
I'm afraid if I type in his name, they'll be like, you're not allowed to check the dark information.
Everyone put in your bets now. Is Henry Kissinger dead?
He's 98.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Henry Kissinger.
There's no death on...
should be dead.
On his... He won a Nobel Peace Prize.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
For ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam.
Incredible.
So funny. Okay, sorry, continue.
But Raiden is there because terrorists have taken over the oil facility and they have a nuke. I know, shocking. So they're basically threatening to launch a nuke unless their demands are met. And their demands are absurd, and they're absurd on the face of them. Like they even talk about how like weird their demands are. But then we start meeting the terrorists known as Dead Cell.
Yes,
and it's one of them's like Fat Man, who's just a big fat guy in a bomb suit wearing rollerblades, and his entire thing is he just likes to plant bombs on stuff. He's a really fun guy. We meet Fortune, who is carries this giant electric rail gun, and she cannot be shot by bullets. If you shoot bullets at her, they just curve around her. And she's just like, I just want to die, and none of you can kill me, and I'm just going to kill everybody I can see. And you meet Vamp, who is a bisexual vampire, who I think is just there for the vibes, honestly. He doesn't really have a plan or goal.
Like, they kind of make the joke where he just does vampire stuff, like, that's why they call him Vamp. And they're like, oh no, it's because he's bisexual, which apparently is slang for bisexual, a thing that I never... Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. Learned it from this game.
I'm not going to use it.
Yeah,
sounds bad.
It's almost... There's also, like, not a lot of situations where you need slang for bisexual.
That's true.
That's
true. This game was, 2001, so maybe you needed it more back then?
No, you would need it of less. We're more open with sexualities moving forward.
And
less opening in the past. Especially Japan, which is a little bit more conservative about that stuff.
Considerably more. Is there another member of Dead Cell? I guess
it's just the four. It's Solid as Fat Man, Fortune, and Vamp.
Vamp, yeah.
That's the big problem with Dead Cell, in my opinion. Is it's just not that many people, and there's not that many scenes with them. I really like them. They're all really interesting. Fat Man has a lot of cool things. Fortune and Vamp have a lot of really cool scenes, but one that gets to a point in the game where we're just talking about the plot, and they stop being there because they're not actually a part of the plot. Right?
Yeah.
They're part of the gameplay to make the game feel like Metal Gear Solid 1, which is also a part of the plot.
Well, like, Fortune has, 3 scenes total, and she's the most important member of the team.
Yeah, like, you today were like, who's her dad? And I'm like, that's a major story point, but it's also not that weird you don't know it.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in 10 hours.
Yeah.
Because, like, you see her once, kind of in the distance, she's getting shot at by guards, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Then you see her once when she comes down the elevator and you have to fight her. And then you don't see her again until she shows up in the final cutscenes.
Yeah, and it's just dying.
Yeah. And those are many hours. It's like 10 hours at least between those things. So you just kind of forget Fortune exists until the end of the game. And this, like, Vamp, he just kind of shows up and is a boss fight. Like, I don't know what Vamp is doing. He has no business here.
You kill him, I guess. But before that, you see him, like, run up a pillar. And then before that, you see him, like, with Fortune down the elevator.
He runs on water and stuff, too.
Yeah, he runs on water and up a pillar. Yeah, I guess running up a pillar is less impressive than running on water.
Vamp gets shot in the head, and he's fine. Like,
multiple times throughout the theories.
Yeah, like, we've pretty sure Vamp's immortal, and you fight him again in 4 and Metal Gear Solid 4 and stuff, but, like, we don't know what Vamp's motivation is, why he's here, or what his goals are. So, you know, that's a quarter of the dead cells that just doesn't mean anything in the slightest. And then Fat Man is just there to kill his former teacher who taught him how to make bombs, which is essentially just a side thing from like the main plot.
Yeah, but also then later you find out that he was actually working for the Patriots just to test Raiden's capabilities.
But who wasn't, right?
So here's what we should do, I think, is... this is sounding somewhat disorganized because Metal Gear Solid 2 is a disorganized mess.
Yeah.
I can do it. Do you want to try? You want me to try to summarize the plot in as few words as I can?
Ooh.
The actual plot.
Did you say nerd?
So, one thing we did not mention is there's 2 parts of the game. One you start as Snake, one you start as Raiden. When you start as Snake, it's mostly kind of a tutorial, but there's kind of plot elements. There's a new Metal Gear. It works in the water. You're Snake to see that exist, and because you work for an anti-Metal Gear group now. The Marines own it. It gets stolen by Ocelot from the first game. Ocelot was just an antagonist from the first game who double-crossed you. But now his arm is half of Solid Snake's clone brother, Liquid Snake.
Yep.
Man, we're already getting confusing. Whatever. Liquid Snake is Ocelot's arm. It will only come up at the very end, and also unclear.
Yeah, once at the beginning and once at the end.
How clear. I forgot to listen to the ending credit goddamn thing for this game. We just beat it.
Oh,
remember?
That's a good point.
I gotta look that up in a bit. Keep going down the thing. So, okay.
Joey's trying to summarize the plot.
Yeah. So, pretty simple. New Metal Gears, they're dangerous.
Simple.
Government had them. Evil guys stole it. Flash forward to the future. We're now Raiden.
Nerd.
He's effeminate and kind of a joke. He's supposed to suck. He's on a mission where finding out in the first minute of his mission that on a support team is his girlfriend who keeps asking about their anniversary, but he can't seem to figure out the anniversary, even though every player knew instantly when she said, "Do you know what day it is, Raiden?" I'll just keep asking.
Wait until you remember.
So as you, the audience, we're dealing with somewhat followable events with Solid Snake, are now dealing with, why do I have this character? Why does nothing make sense immediately? Solid Snake's around there. You collect some bombs. You do some stuff. All you know is the terrorists are there. They're holding the president hostage for like $1 billion of stuff. Turns out as the game progresses, everyone's lying to Raiden all the time about everything. Regarding everything, actually, the terrorists exist just to fight the Patriots. What are the Patriots? I guess just the Illuminati. Kind of more specific and defined, but it's Illuminati shit.
They're the shadow government.
Yeah, they're the shadow government who owns the world. They say specifically it's 12 people. They call them the Lolly-Lule-Lo a lot.
Yep.
Just because I think it's funny to say. Because a lot of characters are like, did the Lolly-Lule-Lo send you? And you're like, what the fuck are we talking about? Part of what makes this game so obfuscating. So, you, Raiden, have learned that everyone's lying to you, that the Patriots exist, that the bad guys are to stop the Patriots, so maybe they're not that bad, but also they seem kind of bad, because they're pretty pro-murder. They're just kind of murdering people. Also, another clone of Big Boss, Solidus, exists. Who cares? He used to be the president. Let's just move on from that. Later, you find out that this whole big shell, which was a facility used to cover up the oil spill from the tanker incident that Snake was involved with at the beginning of the game, is actually to build a secret Metal Gear. You go, oh, they're building more arrays? No. They're building a giant Metal Gear card arsenal, which you never truly see, that is full of a bunch of rays to protect it. Inside Arsenal is actually the real threat. Not the Metal Gear Ray, not the Metal Gear Arsenal, is a supercomputer that more or less does the plot of Good Morning Vietnam starring Robert Williams, where they take all of the news and they censor it to influence society moving forward. So now we have a supercomputer that edits the information that goes out to the public, that controls kind of what we think and feel about certain situations, because we never truly know the truth. But while this is happening, there's a thing called the S3 plan going on. The Patriots, who have set up this entire thing to get people to try to stop them, but really it's to make their plans go forward. So, okay, let's be more specific, because, you know, you might start to get confused an hour ago.
You want me to get into it?
Well, I can do this part. You can get into it in a second.
I believe in you.
But you think the Patriots' plan is this AI, and the bad guys, who are also kind of good guys because they're doing what you want them to do, but Solidus and friends are trying to stop GW, the supercomputer. But the Patriots don't care about that. That is super tertiary to their plans. Really what they're trying to do is make a simulation to figure out how to build the perfect soldier. So they make everything in the place that we're at, Big Shell, to be like Shadow Moses, where the events of the first plane took place, so we can make more Solid Snakes. So efficiently, they can make more soldiers that are at Solid Snakes level. Now you may be asking yourself, how could they efficiently recreate this scenario multiple times? I don't know. As you might have realized, it's kind of stupid at this point.
Yeah. But that's not the real reason.
Yeah, there's the societal.
That only goes up to the Ocelot level of reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what Ocelot thinks. The real reason is super confusing. Essentially, they were using, like, Raiden's experiences to shape their own experience. They were kind of, like, trying to... They're computers, right? Well, the one we're talking to is a computer, GW.
Stands for George Washington.
Yeah, probably.
It does specifically.
I mean, it would have to. But it is sort of trying to, like, make its own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to, like, gain a soul. And it's doing that by observing Raiden through this whole simulation that they're putting him through. So, like, every single person you meet in this game has a different motivation, and pretty much all of them are controlled by the person above them, who is eventually controlled by the Patriots.
Think of it this way. Metal Gear Solid 2 is like if you took the most confusing and perplexing episode of Moffat-era Doctor Who and added M. Night Shyamalan twist to it. Every 3 seconds. Because it's always like, okay, I mean, I guess, like, the AI is a person, but, like, they just want to hug or something. Oh, the AI is the master. Oh, the master is actually a Dalek. Oh, the Dalek is actually a Cyberman.
Yeah.
Oh, the Cyberman and the Daleks were made by the master, but the master was a Dalek and a Cyberman first, because time is recursive. You're like, I don't know what we're doing here anymore.
Exactly. I was thinking about the Rick and Morty heist episode where Rick shows up to the high spot, and high spot's like, you only think that because I made you think that, and Rick's like, you only think that because I made you think that, and they just kind of keep going back and forth. And that's how it feels, because at the end of this game, like, Fortune shows up and is like, I'm double-crossing you, and Solidus is like, no, I knew you were double-crossing me, I'm double-crossing you, and also it's like, sorry, I'm double-crossing everybody, and you're like, what's going on? And the Patriots are like, we're using Ocelot to double-cross you, Raiden. Why is everyone doing this?
And then Ogre Lukovich has just been dead on the floor the whole time.
Been dead since the beginning of the cutscene.
Yeah. I'm here to barely be in the game. So honestly, I think there is literally no better description of the plot than anywhere else in the internet than I just did. And I don't think I did a good job. I want that to be very clear.
Yeah.
More or less, the functional things that matter with this game is most of the plot points are similar to Shadow Moses, but that's intentional because of super government plots. And we're mostly dealing with what amounts to the impact of having the Illuminati.
Yeah, but I think most importantly among all of it is this idea of, like, of what we go back to in one, this idea of, like, being controlled.
Yeah.
You know? That they're all here for their own reasons, but their own reasons aren't even theirs, you know? And how do they
I mean, there's an interesting point with that, though, with the Raidenness of it all, right? Where Raiden doesn't have agency throughout the whole game.
Throughout his whole life.
His whole life, yeah. And functionally, you don't really have agency in the game. You have to, depending on the game, obviously. But in that, in games like this, you have to do the things that they tell you to do. There's no sequence skipping in Metal Gear Solid, right?
No, yeah.
You play the game you go down the pathway as the pathway is intended. And then the game ends, it implies that Raiden has to kind of find out his own agency and not only find a life from himself, but also escape from the oppression of things like the Patriots that are actively trying to control every aspect of his life.
Yeah.
Now, is that interesting? I don't know who's to say.
I am. Part 2 of my philosophy. How do we find...
I'm gonna take a bath. Tell me when you're done.
How do we care about one another? Like, what is the mechanism by which we do that? Right? It's not enough to just say, let's go against the gods. Let's go against the things that control us, right? But how do we do that? There's an essential nature of being human. It is personal agency. It is a personal will. When God comes down to Job, he's like, I am all powerful. I am everything. You do not question me. But Job is still able to do so if he wanted to. This is why I say Job's a coward. Because he had the choice. He was faced with God, and he could have said no. Right? Yeah. This is, I'm going to do a third aside here. In the Superman comic book, Red Sun, in which Superman lands in Soviet Russia and is raised as a sort of the dictator of the world. He literally creates an absolute utopia. Well, not absolute. He creates a utopia in the world. He balances all the world's money. He makes sure everybody has food and water and everybody is able to live comfortably. If ever there's a problem, Superman can hear it. He can see it on the other side of the world and he will come to help. He will fix your problems. And yet, at the same time, there is a Soviet Batman who's running around blowing up museums and shit like that. And Superman's like, why on earth is this happening, right? And the answer is because the people that don't fall in line with what Superman decides is utopia, he turns into like robots that become janitors. He messes with their brain and makes them Superman robots. And he's like, well, now they're productive members of society. They didn't want to be part of the world, So I'm only doing what I can to preserve the peace of the world. And Batman is out there blowing up buildings and trying to kill Superman. And Superman, it stands out over everything. And he says, I gave them a heaven and they fight for the right to live in hell. Because the world before him was bad. It's what we have today. It was just bad. Yeah. And if
spoilers on the current state of the affairs.
Yeah, sorry. If you're listening in the future, the world's pretty bad now. I'm sorry, because it doesn't look like it's getting better.
One tiny aside, I've been listening to old podcasts this last couple of weeks, and I listened to one in 2016, and they were just like, this year was awful. It surely can't get worse. And it's just like, them not knowing about 2020 and complaining about 2016 is so funny. Because I remember, like, how bad 2016 felt, and you're just like, yeah, it's just kind of like, that feels so dealable now.
They are like children. They do not know. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's insane. But the fact is, humans without choice are not humans. We cannot act morally without freedom.
All we are is free will.
And all Metal Gear Solid 2 is about freedom. I bring up the Superman because, like, yes, even if everything was perfect, it's not perfect if we don't have the freedom to not be perfect.
Yeah.
And so in Metal Gear Solid 2, it's just layers and layers and layers of people being controlled by everyone around them, often by themselves, by their past, being redefined. Raiden was a child soldier, and he was only a child soldier because Solidus killed his parents and took control of him. He made him a child soldier. He was raised as a soldier, and then he was raised to like do this whole weird simulation thing for the Patriots. He was raised to be here and to make all these choices. Like, nothing he's ever done has been true. Even his girlfriend was an agent, a spy of the Patriots.
Yeah.
Everything about him, they believe, pointed towards someone who is just going to be, docile, a perfect little soldier, a docile thing. But, like, people just aren't that. you know? And at the end of the day, Raiden breaks free of the system. That's the whole point of the ending, is Raiden breaks free of the system, and he meets Rose on the streets of New York, and she's like, let's just literally run away together, you know? Let's leave all this behind. Let's reject the battlefield and choose love.
I hate the Rose thing at the end.
I like it.
Because, well, one, do you know what he actually does right after 2? Like, what does Raiden do with his life?
Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance.
No, I mean, but like the plot of it was, he goes and gets Sunny, Olga's child.
That's what Snake does.
Nope.
Oh, Raiden?
Raiden does that. Raiden turns a cyborg ninja and spends his time infiltrating the Patriots and then rescues Sunny and brings it to Snake and Otacon.
Okay.
And I think that's interesting because he chose to keep fighting the Patriots. And the last thing he did, it was that, you know, the ethics of care thing you're talking about. You know what I mean? This is the person who helped him during his journey, even though she was forced to do it. And the last thing that he can do for her is rescue her child.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me fits more in the themology that we're talking about than the Rose stuff. Because the thing about the Rose stuff is, it's very unclear what Rose even is.
Yeah.
To reference a very obscure internet thing, there's that Britannic sketch, humans are turning into horses.
Oh, yeah.
Or, eagles are turning humans into horses.
Yeah.
And there's a part of it where it's the whole bit of the sketch is he can't break up with his girlfriend honestly. So he comes up with this elaborate lie, right? And he's like, and a part of it is just like, but I've been with you all this time. That's a clone of me. And there's like another clone of him that he just pushes into a room. And at the end, they all escape and she runs away and they're all alone. And the clone comes out and he looks at him and goes, "What am I?" And that's all I can think about with Rose, right? Is like her looking at Raiden in the street, being like, "What am I?
Right?
Was I a robot this whole time? Was I a sleeper agent? Did I have control over my mind?" And it's Metal Gear, where the answers can be more complicated and stupid than you're used to. In a later edition, we're still dealing with Liquid Ocelot with Liquid at his arms, and then you find out that no, he actually got rid of the cursed arm, but then hypnotized himself to think that the arm was still real, so the Patriots wouldn't know that he knew that the arm was gone, so they would think Liquid is still in control and not Ocelot, and that's as dumb as it sounds.
Yeah, we've all played Metal Gear Solid 4.
It doesn't make sense. It's too many suspensions of disbelief.
Yes.
In a row. And that's kind of like the whole thing with Rose. Is one, so to talk about Rose for a second, let's do a whole Rose aside.
Well, let me just say this real quick.
Yeah, sure.
On what you just said, right? Too many levels of disbelief. Metal Gear Solid 1, the story is simply terrorists have a nuke and we need to stop them. Yeah. Right? And the engaging portion of the story is just told through the interaction of the characters.
Yeah.
Right? I say stuff like Psycho Mantis is, you know, one of the most evil people in the whole thing. And that's because, like, he takes control of people's mind. You know, he takes away their will and stuff like that. It's important that the interactions that they have, develop the themes of the game. But the plot is simple, and that means that those interactions stand out and become understandable as metaphor. Metal Gear Solid 2 is so insanely complicated that all you can do by the end is wonder what the fuck just happened.
And it's not complicated like the other way things are complicated. Like, people are like, oh, Game of Thrones is complicated. But also, the story we're telling does connect. It just has, like, a lot of proper nouns. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, that's not what makes it complicated, right? What makes Metal Gear Solid 2 complicated is, no one makes any sense. But then they try to cover the way they don't make sense by saying bullshit like, well, actually, the nanomachines inside you will check your blood pulse, and if you do that, will force your death of your child of a character that you've seen for 2 minutes. And it's just like, it's like, okay, these characters have reasons, but they just seem dumb and illogical. And, like, I get it's like a secret Illuminati organization, but, like, they can just manipulate everything happening in every room ever.
Yeah.
Like, what, through what?
That's what it comes off as.
Through how? You know, your brain is forced to try to answer too many questions the game has no intention of answering.
Yeah.
And to put that in perspective is they purposely make Rose in the team during her codex for Raiden. Because in the previous game, you had mainly the Colonel and a character called Naomi. Colonel and Naomi are in what I would call the plot codec, right? You call one codec and they play off each other, and they're the codec you hear the most. They're kind of your mission support, right? In the first game, Roy is a character. His niece is Meryl, so you see him emotionally react to the mission as it's happening. It is implied that they have an old relationship. You know what I mean? Like Snake is like, I thought we were friends at a point, basically, more or less. To Roy, he's a character and we can look at the world through him and it makes sense. And you also have Naomi, who is, part of the mystery and the intrigue element of it. That she's like, oh, is she actually helping us? Is she backstabbing? What's her story? And it pulls you into the plot. What they do in this game is Roy's nothing to the point that he's literally a computer program, right? Also, the only reason he exists is to say stuff for Raiden and you, the player, to not trust. And then you have Rose, who I honestly just don't even know why she's there. Is it just a joke?
It's really unclear.
It feels like it starts off as a joke because it's his girlfriend saying, do you know what day it is? And he's like, I
really don't have time for this.
And you're just like, it's the anniversary. That's what it could be.
Yeah.
And that just keeps happening. And sometimes it lands really well. There's a part where you have to freeze all these bombs all over the area and you like leave a room and you get a call from Rose and she's like, Raiden, why do you never talk to me? And he's like, I'm kind of busy. And like, it's just delivered well and it's kind of funny or whatever. But every time you engage with it, I get that part of Roy and Rose being your mission support is supposed to be Raiden being like, I can't trust these people. I can't listen to the people giving me orders. I have to figure out what to do myself, right? I get that's part of the storytelling, but when you're playing the game or experiencing the game, even if you know the whole plot, the whole time you hear this stuff, you're just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Why is Raiden so unobservant? Why would anyone act this way? It just takes you out of the world so much where it's like, it becomes complicated because some of the stuff you're like, am I not getting it or is it just stupid? We just have a stupid plot point here.
Exactly. That's a big problem, like with all the characters, is a lot of the characters do show this theme that we've been talking about, this theme of,
agency?
Yeah. Basically agency, right? We see it in Fortune, who's, her whole life's been controlled by her need for revenge and the fact that, her father was killed and that's all been manipulated by the Patriots. And even her special power that bends bullets around her, that was a thing. That was literally just a machine they put on her.
Yeah.
That it was like, it made electromagnetic waves that literally bent the bullets around her.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But then Ocelot turns that thing off and he gets in Ray and he shoots a bunch of missiles at everybody and Fortune stands up and puts her hands out and literally deflects all the missiles. And like, her thing isn't working anymore.
Yeah, my theory is Ocelot just turned it back on.
Sure.
It's just that it makes the most sense in the world we live in.
No, but the idea behind, the real idea behind Fortune, because Ocelot didn't turn it back on, is she decided what she was. She decided to be Fortune, whether or not the powers that be wanted her to be that. It was an ultimate moment of self-assertion on the universe. And I'll say, it's wild, And
it works too, the agency thing with Fortune, because kind of like, philosophically, the ultimate expression of our agency at all times is deciding whether to live or die.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, I guess it feels like she could just kill herself. Like, I'm not sure if she, like, throws a knife, like, it just bounces away. And just
mechanics
like, how Fortune am I? But, she's, the whole time, every fight, she's just like, are you the one who's chosen to kill me so I can be with the others?
Yeah.
And she is just trying to die, but can't. And that's, I think that's the purest way of expressing agency, in my personal opinion.
Well, maybe.
Well, because it's the primordial thing. It's like, you always have a choice. And it's like, no, I don't always have a choice. And it's like, you can choose to die.
Exactly.
You always have that choice. It's your choice it's the one choice that almost usually can't be taken away from you.
Yeah, and that's why, like, Camus' Myth of Sisyphus is so compelling, right? Because the point of him writing that book is exploring the question, you know, should you live or should you die? If there's only one question truly to be answered, should you live or should you die? Camus is like, I am going to argue that you should live. You know?
Dark Souls so much!
But also, Fortune's given the opportunity to die. He turns off the thing, also turns off her thing, and shoots her. And she's there, like, she could just die.
It's such a great scene, because it's very classic Kojima, where he shoots her, but he shoots her in the wrong heart, and he's like, I forgot you were the term for having a heart on the wrong side of your body. I'll never, you know, it's like, he never misses, but he forgot, like, a thing, you know? And it's just, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, it just works because you understand who these people are.
Yeah.
And it's silly and nonsense, but it just like you feel the stakes, and like those are the sort of things I can't suspend my disbelief.
Yeah, it's that like pulp comic book feel to it, where you're just like, that's wild. You know?
Yeah.
She's the person with the heart on the wrong side, of course.
Yeah.
You know?
And like a cowboy just shot a woman with a giant rail gun that you thought bended bullets up into this point, you know, through the heart. It's just like, yeah, it just feels great.
Yeah, but then, like, thematically, she learned that everything she wasn't what she thought she was. And that's when Ocelot shoots her. And instead of just dying like she's been asking for this whole time, instead of taking that opportunity to just fucking give up, she stands back up and you know, she doesn't say the words, but, like, through her actions, she says, no, I am what I think I am. You know? Mm-hmm. I decide what I am, and I decide when I die. She could take the missile, she could take the bullet, but she won't. She turns the missiles away and says, no, I decide, you know?
And then Ocelot's like, I'm gonna go on my plane. Fuck, I'm being possessed by an arm that I sewed on my body.
Why did I do this?
Why did I pick an arch villain that might possess me?
Oh, damn these recessive genes.
Yeah. So, one more thing I kind of want to talk about with characters and agency and how it's kind of reflected is, I think that the themes of 2 are problematic because they're not reflected throughout the game. A lot of it's focused at the end by just saying it out loud. But I do like this plot, and I definitely more than you do from our conversations before this. I think some of that's kind of covered well, where it's Fat Man and Peter Stillman, the guy who trained Fat Man, right? So it's kind of the tutorial part of the game where you just get to Big Shell as Raiden, and they're kind of trying to show you the area and teach you stuff. There's a character who it's a very simple, like, I'm his master, you know, I was his master. I taught him everything I know about explosives, which also begs the question of the audience, what does that entail? Right? Like, here's how you build it. Cool.
Now I know.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't have my philosophy. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, the philosophy.
I was gonna say, don't build it.
Yeah. Like, there's a bit where it's like that trick where he uses all the bombs, that once they all go deactive, it activates a big bomb. Yeah. I never taught him that. And it's like, good. Because, like, not a technique I'm pretty comfortable with someone inventing. Yeah, so it's just, you know, they make explosives sound like it's like the Jedi fucking arts in kind of a way that I actually think is fun, instead of, it does break my suspension of disbelief, but in a way that I appreciate from Metal Gear. But an interesting thing about it is there's a part where there's big bombs at the struts of the thing that they didn't find. And Stillman is like, I'm going to go out and do that bomb. And they're like, you can't, Stillman. You couldn't walk earlier. You have a cane and you're old. And you lost your ability to walk in a bomb. And he's like, you know, no, that's a lie. Like, I fucked up trying a bomb, and then a bunch of people died. And I couldn't live with that death. So I chose to pretend I was crippled. But I'm not, you know?
Yeah.
I just didn't want to face the responsibility of my own actions. And I chose this path, you know? And then he goes, you know, runs to the strut, puts the bomb out, and dies trying. I mean, like, he does. No, he actually doesn't. He fails to put the bomb out.
Yeah, it was something like him exploding that bomb was necessary or something like that. It was considered sort of a noble sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, like, he did, well, sort of. It
was a trick.
It was a trick.
He
fucked up and he let the bomb explode, but he could at least explain to Raiden what not to do.
Yeah.
And not have both of those structures explode.
Yeah.
So like, part of the facility got destroyed, but the whole thing didn't come crashing into the ocean. I thought it was interesting because it reflects that story of agency, but it also, I think it actually does work with the themes of Metal Gear as a whole or whatever, because it's actually a character-based story of someone we come to understand and realize who they are as a person. It's not that much characterization, but knowing stuff like, I lied about being crippled because it was so hard for me to face my own responsibility is way more character development than we get with characters like Fortune and Vamp that have slightly more screen time. All we know about Fortune is she wants to die because other people she knows dies. All we know about Vamp is he fucks both genders.
Yep.
Right? All we know about Solidus is eye patch. I don't know. Honestly, these characters don't have much. All we know about Ocelot's from the first game.
Yeah.
All we know about Rose is less than what I started with. A lot of the characters say their backstory. They say where they're from and what their early life was like, and it really just makes you more confused. I think these are the parts of the game that kind of should have been more prevalent to make 2 feel more like a kind of digestible story instead of kind of like big sticky mess.
Yeah, I agree. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a big sticky mess, and not a particularly good one. It's too hard to even get to the themes of what they're trying to say in the game, which is why it's so much worse than 1, and why 1 is so good. Because like I said before, it's just a character story. It's there to tell you to be kind to one another, to make your decisions, and to be good people actively. 2 says the same thing. It's like 2, its idea is you decide who you are. And you're going to have to do that at some point. And if you don't, other people will decide for you and your life will be worse. Everyone's life will be worse because you're not making choices. And the idea behind both of them is, to sum up what I've been saying this whole time, that to be a moral being, you have to care about one another. You have to do actions for other people or for yourself in a way that's self-care, that kind of thing. And on top of that, you have to do it actively. You have to exercise your own personal agency to make those things happen, or people will control you. The theme of 1 is nukes are bad because they will destroy everything, because they remove people's agency. The governments that control these nukes are bad. The power structures that creates wars and nukes are bad. The only thing that can be good in this situation is choosing to reject those things. And the same thing happens in 2, where it's this mess, this convoluted mess of double crosses and people making plans for other people. And at the end of the day, you just have to say, I reject all of that. I reject everything that everybody was doing, and I make my own path. That's the point of these games, as difficult as it may or may not be to get out of the second game.
I would say that the big difference between 1 and 2 in conveying these same themes is the difference between showing and telling. 2 just says these themes and you have to accept it because a character said it to you in a video game. Even with using the same tools they have available, which is just a character talking at you, they can drastically convey these messages in different ways. So in Metal Gear Solid 1, you'll have a character like Natasha, who's optional codec material, who is a Russian woman who's a weapons expert. And if you just keep calling her, she'll talk about things like Chernobyl and nukes and the danger of them. And you get it from someone's perspective where it feels close to them. Where the game isn't saying, you have to consider this, right? It is hidden in the game's text if you choose to engage with it. And it just naturally adds to your understanding of the world around you, if that makes sense. The more you engage with the optional narrative and story hooks, the more it feels like it's kind of a deeply embedded message. Whereas in 2, it feels like the first half of the game is kind of like weird jokes and mystery bullshit. Ooh, what could happen next? And the end of the game is just characters monologuing about the specific plot, which probably will get negated by the next monologue happening 2 minutes later.
Yeah. 15 minutes later.
15 minutes later, yeah, after the monologue. 2 minutes after one monologue ends, another one begins. That's a fair
yeah.
Comparison. And the other thing I was going to say about these games as a whole is it's been interesting kind of after doing our Resident Evil 2 and 4 cast, looking at Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, because they have a lot of similarities in the changes between those sets of games. So I think both Metal Gear Solid 1 and Resident Evil 2 are really story, atmosphere, and narrative focused. One game succeeds way more at story than the other, and one game succeeds, I would argue, more in gameplay than the other. And they both have different flaws and things going into their game, but the whole game is packaged kind of consistently with the themes, gameplay, and feeling that they're trying to create. Whereas 4 and 2, I think, are too focused on the things that they thought did well. People were very high on the story in Metal Gear Solid 1, so they put so much story on it, it obscures the actual game. And people liked Resident Evil's gameplay so much, they put so much gameplay, there's really nothing else in the game. And I think both of these things are somewhat the hubris of the designer, focusing too much on what they thought worked in their previous game, and not the process that led to the creative ideas that they made. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think 2 definitely has some heart in it. And so does 4, like Resident Evil 4. Both of these games have heart in it. But they're lost too much in trying to make what they think people liked about the game, I think, versus trying to make a game that works on its own. For the love guy, can we just lightning round so I can go back to Dark Souls?
Yes, let's do a lightning round. So I know we have, before we start that, I know we haven't talked much about actual like gameplay or anything like that. We kind of wanted to save a lot of that stuff for the lightning round because there's not so much to talk about and it's all kind of quippy. So we're just gonna have fun with it here instead of engaging too heavily. It's as we said before. I think playing these games is about understanding their themes and engaging with their plot and characters more than they are about the actual gameplay. So here we're gonna have some fun with it.
So first thing, when I play a game, one of the nice things about a game is I can like turn on a TV show, turn on a podcast, and just relax and just enjoy the games. Metal Gear won't let you do that. I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, and they just interrupted me every couple of seconds. And it got to a point where before near the end of the game, I had 8 minutes left on a podcast. And an hour and a half later, I still wasn't done with those 8 minutes because an hour and a half was cutscenes and 8 minutes was gameplay. It was preposterous. So I got to a point in the story and I go, we're going to do Dark Souls soon. I'm going to just turn on Dark Souls and play Dark Souls. I have done nothing since until today where I had to go and finish 2, which I've already beaten a bunch of times, but I had to go and finally finish 2 because I've beaten Dark Souls 1 3 times and am 75% of the way through Dark Souls 2 while playing Metal Gear Solid 2 because I just wanted to play a game where people shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just never. If anyone has something to say with me, cool. I didn't know what you meant anyways, and it doesn't matter. And just keep playing.
Exactly. There's a character in 2 named Emma Emmerich, or EE, and she is fucking terrible. I want to compare her to Resident Evil 4 as you did before, because in Resident Evil 4, we talked about Ashley, who is, you literally lead around by the hand. Well, not literally. You lead her around.
Yeah, you just tell her what to do. Yeah. Like, how all escort missions, like, why do I have to hold your fucking hand?
Why are these so bad?
Can I use my words? Can we not communicate?
Can you just follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Ashley's great, and she has, like, a lot of character, right? In Metal Gear Solid,
relative to the rest of the game.
Yeah, everything is relative in Resident Evil 4. In Metal Gear Solid 2, there is a character, EE, Emma Emmerich, who is Otacon's sister. And she's like she tipped them off about the tanker. She I think she made GW, like she wrote the code for GW, which is insane because she's canonically 18 years old.
Yeah. It's I'm super hacker girl, which makes sense because my brother is Otacon. And
yeah, but also,
don't you know how like every brother and sister combo, they're like exactly good at the same things?
Yeah, but they were
classic siblings.
Yeah, but they weren't actually siblings; they were adopted too. So like that didn't work out. They were from 2 different parents.
No, I think they're step. It makes the
they shared a parent, I think.
Yeah, which step parents.
Yes, but
makes the drama later worse.
Well, no, they were from 2 different parents. They are step siblings.
Yeah, but that means they share a sibling.
No.
That's how step works.
No, they were from 2 different marriages.
Yeah, they have the same dad, different mothers. Then they wouldn't be stepchildren.
I don't know. It's irrelevant.
Yeah. Like, regardless, one of the things you're saying is wrong. Your use of step, or if they're step or not.
I don't care. The point is...
I care.
The point is they're not blood relatives, I guess.
It kind of matters if they are half blood relatives.
It kind of matters. Oh, so...
No, you're right. Step isn't blood. I'm wrong.
I know. Oh.
Did you?
Yes. This whole time, that's why I was saying it. So, Emma is his stepsister, and she almost drowned... Oh, God, do I have to go through this whole backstory? She almost drowned in a pool, and her dad jumped in to save her. She was calling for Otacon to help her, but Otacon was busy fucking her mom. And that kind of broke up the family that.
I literally think it's dumber than that. I think the dad was in the pool to kill himself because he knew about Otacon and his wife.
Yeah, I know he did kill himself.
And then he's in the pool, and I think Emma goes in and then almost dies. But the dad does die.
Yeah.
And then she comes out, and she was vaguely aware of the thing. Like, I think she saw Otacon fucking the mom, but it's all repressed.
Maybe.
You know? And then it just creates... And it's just fucking soap opera shit.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, Otacon's like, I was intimate with her mother, like, as he pushes up his glasses, and you're like, how?
Yeah.
You're fucking Otacon.
The reason I bring up all this backstory and everything is because it makes it seem like Emma would have a character. But she doesn't. She has no bearing on anything. What she does is deliver a virus that essentially disables GW. That's it. What her real purpose narratively is to show up and make Otacon sad. And then die so that Otacon can be more sad, but he can man up about it. That's it. They fridged Emma.
Yeah, speaking of which, I'm gonna go get a beer.
I miss you. Hal, I miss you. I miss you. I miss you.
You and me, we're the same.
They replaced Emma with a bird after she died. And the reason I bring this up is because there are exactly 4 female characters in this game. And this is what we kind of meant when we were talking about certain things about Kojima. You start to realize over time. One is Emma, who only talks about her brother and how much she hates him or wants to be friends with him again. One is Fortune, who is like an actual character, but mostly just talks about her dead dad. You know, one is Olga, who only talks about how her child is being held hostage by the Patriots.
Also, how her dad was killed by Ocelot.
Yeah, and
Snake killed it. She thinks Snake did, but Ocelot did.
Yeah. And who's the 4th?
Rose. Same thing. I was like, who's the 4th one?
I was like, I know there is one, but that's because she's kind of a robot. But Rose's entire personality is there to talk about Raiden. So there is not one female character in this game that has any agency outside of themselves and who doesn't essentially just talk about either a man or like motherhood, you know, just being a woman in general. Yeah. And they have mostly no purpose, right? Like none of them really have an impact on the story aside from just being side characters.
Yeah.
You know? But Emma's the worst of it because she literally just gets fridged.
Yeah, and there's a couple of parts of that. One, she's like weirdly sexualized and she's 18, and 18's like super uncomfortable for me because if you're saying someone's 18, it's like you knew it was creepy, but you try to get around it in the worst way possible. Or what I would say, the laziest way possible.
She's of age.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Let's be clear. The worst way possible Fire Emblem perfected, where it's like, they're not underage, they're a 1,000-year-old dragon!
Yeah. Don't worry, they look like a preteen.
Yeah. So, yeah, every character, like Snake says he wants to ask her out on a date. They talk about her playing marriage with Otacon as a child.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm cute and smart to, like, write in and just, like, a really kind of, out of place scene to be doing that in.
Yeah.
You know? It's just, like, all like that. You show up and she pees herself like Otacon does, but I extra didn't like it this time because after very, close to that scene is someone peeing on your head, and then also close to that scene is you listening to Johnny take a shit during an important cutscene. There's one character in every Metal Gear game called Johnny. He just shits graphically, and it's an Easter egg in all the game.
Yep.
And it just, at that point, I had to really consider, is like, do we have to really talk about, like, is Kojima, like, doing a weird fetish thing here?
Yeah.
Right? And then, like, an 18-year-old girl is, like, pissing herself in a locker. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Things to think about.
Yeah, don't also, because don't need to live in this weird and sad of a world. But also with EE is, it's not even so much the fridging of her, which is always, I'm very critical, but it's pretty common in, male-ridden media,
yeah.
Right? It's just how, like, even if we're gonna say, like, actually, fridging is good, but, like, if we gave a false premise, even, what are we doing here? Why is this such a fucking soap opera?
Yeah.
Why did we go from, I slept with her mother and then her dad killed herself and we have a tragic family backstory, and you're just like, Otacon, is this your only scene in the fucking game is talking about your sad, tragic backstory instead of, like, showing a character beneath this backstory so the things that you're saying have more impact onto who you are? And this doesn't even betray the worst thing about E is, at the end of the day, when you replay Metal Gears, you're probably going to skip the cutscenes the second time you play through. Because the gameplay throughout all these games is genuinely fun. But you can't forget about EE because her gameplay is phenomenally bad. Not only do the first time you get her, you have to start an escort mission, which is almost always bad. You're doing it underwater.
Yep.
And she is a smaller O2 gauge in an area that's like kind of hard to navigate control-wise, and everything looks the same.
Yeah.
And so after you get out of that, you do like maybe 2 rooms where there's guards in it. And you just leave her by the elevator or whatever room you walk through. Just murder everyone real quick. Come back and get her. It's really all you got to do. To a sniper section where you have to snipe stuff to protect her, which is also garbage gameplay because it takes so fucking long.
Yeah.
Because it starts off, you're like, okay, I see what you're doing. And then you call Snake, and Snake starts shooting stuff inside your scope, which is kind of cool in flavor. But, like, it's another 5+ minutes, if not more, of you just slowly following a girl, slowly walking with a sniper rifle. And it's just not interesting. It's not challenging. It's not engaging. And if you lose, neither of us lost, I think, our first try. But the mere idea of losing fills me with stress.
Yeah.
Because of how much I would have to do.
I have lost before because you do have to do it again. And, also, like, Vamp, who you've already beaten at this point, just shows up and, like, takes EE hostage while she's out on the pontoons.
Yeah.
And it's the easiest thing in the entire world. You literally just put your sniper rifle on his head and pull the trigger about 4 times. You really can't hit EE. It's pretty hard for her to get in the way.
Yeah.
So, like, I literally was like, bam, bam. Oh, she's just not in the way. Bam, bam, bam. And it just killed him instantly. You know?
And this
wasn't even a fight.
This is another thing that they do kind of in Metal Gear Solid 2 a lot that I find kind of a weird choice, where it's like 1 second of gameplay. Like, here's a cutscene. They grabbed EE, shoot this guy in the head, and you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, yeah, we're back to cutscene.
Yeah.
And another example is there's a part where they're like, guy's coming towards you. Pick up your AK so you can go in disguise. And a guy's like, you have like 10 seconds to just take your gun out and put it into your hands, and then it goes right back to cutscenes. That doesn't count as gameplay.
Exactly.
Like, what are we doing? Like, this is like, I already complain that your cutscenes are too long, but the solution isn't like, and you pressed a button.
Yeah.
Back to cutscenes.
It's not gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I really don't like about 2 specifically is that the gameplay mostly, like, in 1, the gameplay is a lot of figuring out rooms, how guards move, and how you can avoid them.
Yeah.
It's stealth gameplay, right? It's a very rudimentary form of stealth gameplay, but it is stealth gameplay.
Yeah.
Whereas in 2, except for like 1 or 2 rooms that I can think of, it is almost entirely how quickly can you shoot a guy in the head.
Yes.
And that's it.
And that's a difference. That can relate to another point I have in a second, but it's because you can go into first person mode.
Yeah.
And pull out your gun in 2. You could not do that in 1. 1, you just kind of have to aim and shoot. So you can't, quietly take out guards or whatever. So yeah, aiming your gun and shooting someone in a room or shooting a camera that's looking at you kind of just nullifies almost all the threats you could possibly face. The way they try to make up for it is have guard patrols check the dead bodies, so you have to like drag the bodies into lockers if you don't want patrols to come by.
Yeah.
Or you can just leave and exit rooms, and it resets the timer on them calling. So you just call everyone, leave the room, go in, explore the room. Oh, someone's going to check soon. Leave the room, come back. And it's just like, it's just not that engaging. And it's just, you don't look at each room as a puzzle. You look at it, you just count the guards and mow them down.
And I got frustrated because the beginning of 2 is Tanker, which is so fun. It is a little sandbox to learn all the mechanics of the game.
Yeah, where you're Snake and not Raiden.
Yeah, you're Snake. But it's a lot of like, every time you take out guards, there's like lockers nearby and stuff. You should hide the bodies. You should work your way like efficiently and use the skills that they give you. Use the tools. Whereas everything past that is just mostly boring rooms with like maybe 2 guards in them. Most of the time the guards are, you can literally just shoot them in the head, and if you shoot everybody in the head, it's done. They also carry radios on them, and you can just shoot their radio, and that's it. They just
can't do that too.
Yeah, you can.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
But
guess I should have been doing that.
Yeah, but
just kidding. It was never a challenge.
It's not. That's the thing. It's like not even necessary. You just do it sometimes. Half the time the auto aim just goes to the radio anyway. If you're shooting them from behind. So, like, the game just devolves into just, like, shoot the guys, and it's rare that you ever encounter a puzzle or an area where you, like, even have to move the bodies.
And I have a big, like, Metal Gear pet peeve, which is there's a remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 for the GameCube called Twin Snakes, and they used the Metal Gear Solid 2 combat engine and graphics engine to run it. And I think that game is a hot fucking abomination.
Yes.
The big reason is all the cutscenes show a fundamental misunderstanding of what Metal Gear Solid 1 was about. And all the cutscenes are trying to make Snake to be like, look at how much of a badass he is. He just kicked a missile out of the air from a helicopter. And you're like, what the fuck? Quentin Tarantino doesn't write action scenes this dumb. What are we doing? But the other issue that I think is maybe not as bad, but is definitely just as corrosive to the core experience of what Metal Gear Solid 1 is you have the same controls. And not only is it Metal Gear Solid 1 or Metal Gear Solid 2, those controls don't even super work in that game. They certainly don't work in a game not designed around it. So now you can first person everything. Every single room in Metal Gear Solid 1 is just using a silenced weapon and then killing everyone and walking to the next room. Every camera that you're supposed to avoid by using position strategically.
Or just chaff grenades or something.
Yeah, chaff grenades or whatever. You just aim your gun up and do stuff. So you just spend the whole game with a silent SOCOM. And it just trivializes everything. There's just no thought. There's no, there are definitely rooms in Metal Gear Solid 1 on our playthrough that we did together where you're like, oh, I died a couple times in this room. I have to figure this room out.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels good. You like figuring out rooms in 1. And that doesn't really happen so much in 2. And right when you get to the point of the game, you think that there should be a difficulty spike and the stuff might be more interesting. Gameplay stops happening.
Yeah.
And like, it's not even an exaggeration. Like, after you fight the Harrier, which I think a lot of people would look at the halfway point in the game, there's not a lot of tangible gameplay.
No.
Like, just not at all.
And they give
it's a shocking lack of tangible gameplay.
They give you so many weapons, and you get to use, like, none of them really.
Yeah, they don't matter. You don't care. Every weapon you care about in Metal Gear Solid 1.
You get 2 different assault rifles at the exact same time.
Yeah.
You get the AK and the M4 at the exact same time. And there is no difference between them. And it's like, why? Why do I just have 2 assault rifles?
And I don't really use either.
You don't use them at all.
Like, the AK can get a silencer. It should be one of the best guns in the game, but by the time you get a silencer, it's right after the Harrier fight.
Yep.
So where the fuck are you using it?
Yep.
Everything just dies already.
I didn't even get it. I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Like, because after you do that, you go talk to Ames, and then you go to the president. And that's the end of the game.
Yeah,
Because once you talk to the president, your gameplay is over.
Yeah, you have E.
Oh, God.
You then get captured.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. You have E in a vamp fight. It's not very good. You then get captured, and then you saw what we did today, which is you fight 25 Rays, 2 sets of rooms that you're just going to do with a sword, because they just gave you a sword.
They give you a sword.
And then a boss fight with a sword. So, like, yeah, guns are bad.
Yeah.
You just stop. I mean, in the real world and in this game. But guns are bad, And so you just never get to really engage with it. You have a fucking rocket launcher. Like, who cares?
You've got a grenade launcher. I don't think
That's
I
what I meant
ever
to say.
used.
Sorry, grenade launcher.
Yeah. I don't think I ever used it.
Yeah, I used it in the vamp fight just because I wanted to use it because I had it for so long.
Yeah. Why not?
You get a tranquilizing sniper rifle, like, late in the game.
Yeah.
I guess you can snipe vamp.
Never gonna use that.
I guess it's literally just there so you can keep a no-kill run when you do EE.
Yeah.
It's literally the only reason
I think that's it, yeah. Because that's the only time you are mandatory using a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
To kill people. There's one you have to shoot a bunch of Simtex controllers.
Yeah, the control, C4.
Yeah.
What would you say about that? Like, kind of the freezing the bombs, the shooting the Simtex, those sort of gameplay things that they're not really sneaking gameplay things into, but they're kind of like, use the stuff on you to solve different sorts of puzzles.
I thought they were kind of fun just because they are little puzzles to solve. It tells you, kind of in this area of a room, there's a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to find out both how to get there and where the bomb is. So, it's like, okay, you go into the bathroom and you see where it's supposed to be, and you're like, I don't see it, but it's like up in the light,
Yeah.
You have to go in there. And then one's like a puzzle of like pipes you have to crawl under and stuff, and you have to go a way you don't expect to be able to freeze it and stuff like that.
Yeah, like shooting the Simtex, there's like one hidden behind a flag.
Yeah.
That you is the way it's flapping, you can kind of see behind it.
Yeah. There's also one behind and above you.
Yeah.
So like you'll snipe all of them.
That took me so long, I was embarrassed.
I know about it. I know. But then even
because there's more on different difficulties. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you get like the higher difficulties. There's just like so much Simtex.
Yeah. But even during the Fat Man fight, when he's placing Simtex around, sometimes he'll there's like these little cargo crates everywhere, and he just puts bombs on them, and you have to freeze them during the fight.
What?
And sometimes he will put one under the cargo crate, which is fun because like you see him go over there, and you're like, you only have like 30 seconds to do it. You're like, where the hell's the bomb? Where's the bomb? And you have to get on your fucking stomach and get down under there. And they're like, oh, there's the bomb. Like, he hid it from you during the fight. That's fun.
Yeah. So, you want to do a quick boss rundown?
Yeah.
You got like 20 seconds on each. So, Olga.
Olga's a lot of fun. I like that she is kind of a tutorial boss, but she also teaches you to use your environment. You can shoot out lights. You can knock the tarp away and stuff like that. And she's an interesting character.
And it's a pretty classic Metal Gear fight. 2 people on the other side of a thing they can't cross, firing guns at each other.
Yep.
Just very simple. The second one is Fat Man.
Fat Man. I love Fat Man. He's super fun. I don't like the way he moves a lot. He's too fast and too difficult for a game that's like this slow to aim. But you get to use all your toys like C4 and stuff.
I think it actually works because he's that fast, because when he's skating, you don't use first person. You use the just shoot as you run.
Yeah.
So like as he's running, you're just like da 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 da, and then you go into first person and shoot him. It kind of shows you like the value of one way of shooting and the value of the other way of shooting.
I had a very hard time doing that. So what I did was just find out where he was going, and I would place claymores everywhere.
Yeah.
So every time,
and that's cool that there's multiple ways to fight him.
Yeah. And then sometimes like during the fight, he just like stops and does like weird stuff. He'll like dance. He'll just kind of do a little dance and skate backwards in a circle, and you can shoot him while he does that. He knows you can shoot him, and you're like, it's honestly, what the fuck are you doing,
It's
man?
a fat guy on roller skates.
It's
it
just
says
funny.
Laugh and grow fat. And
Yeah.
even after you beat him, there's a bomb underneath them, and like, that's fun and interesting.
Yeah.
And if you trank him, you get his dog tag. If you don't trank him, you still get Peter Stillman's dog tag, his old master that he beat. Cool shit. The rest of them will be shorter than Fat Man. Fortune.
I barely remember it. I hid behind a box until she left. It's a time fight.
Not even a boss fight. Just kind of hide. Harrier.
The Harrier, I'm not a huge fan of. It's better than the Harrier in 1.
It's a Hind D in
the Hind D in 1. But
Snake is there throwing stuff at you. You just shoot missiles into a plane.
Yeah.
Solidus yells, "Die!" And it's the first time you see Solidus, and apparently he's just Doc Ock from Spider-Man.
Yeah, but it's like, you can really just hide behind anything and shoot a rocket, and like, just keep doing that until the fight's over.
Vamp.
Vamp, I enjoyed the fight, to be honest. He has like a lot of interesting mechanics. He dives down into the water, and you can toss a grenade to get him to come out.
Yeah.
And then you're like dodging knives he's throwing at you while he's running around up on top of the rafters of the room.
And you have to use first person to shoot him.
Yeah.
Otherwise
so it's an in-depth fight, but it's not challenging, and that's kind of nice in a way.
I like it less and less over time. I don't really think it's an in-depth fight. It does have a lot of mechanics, but unlike other Metal Gear fights, like later in the series, you don't see how those mechanics kind of tie together and like work in the gameplay sense of it, but also work in the storytelling sense of it. You know, like, Vamp can read your muscle movement, so you have to go to first person mode. Where I guess he can't do that anymore. That doesn't make any sense. He's Vamp.
Yeah, he just says at the beginning, normally I can read people's muscle movements, but not you.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you just shoot him.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, there's just some like weird stuff in that where it's like, it just like almost holds together, but doesn't quite. And it's just like, if you put it against any of the bosses in Metal Gear Solid 3, which we didn't really talk about, obviously, but like, that game has good boss fights, it'd be worse than all.
Yeah.
I think.
100%.
And then finally, Solidus.
I like Solidus a lot.
Yeah, he's a sword. It's fun. They're not great sword mechanics, but they're good enough.
Yeah, he doesn't hit very hard, so like it's kind of hard to die.
Yeah,
you know, as long as you can land your hits, like you're pretty well guaranteed to win that fight. So it makes it fun because the mechanics are bad, but they're kind of fun to play with anyway. And he's not so hard that he's gonna kill you.
I forgot another boss fight. Fighting 25 rays.
Fuck that.
Yeah, it's boring. You just shoot them. It just takes a long time. Like, most of the times you get hit are because you just like don't feel like dodging missiles because this is taking so long.
Exactly.
That you just want to get your hits in. Like, you just care more about your DPS than avoiding damage because you're just like, I have to shoot everything 5 times in the face.
Yeah. And they're throwing you health and ammo, and it's just like, even the game is just like, just get it done, dude. You know? Just do it. We're going to give you everything you need to do it. Just do it. And you're like, whatever, this sucks.
Just super not interesting. We compare that to the Metal Gear Solid 1 boss fights.
Right.
Ocelot.
Ocelot
bounces bullets off walls. You can see his bullet chamber.
I love... What was that quote he has? He loves the feel of a
long silver bullet down a well-greased chamber.
Exactly. Oh,
yeah.
It's
not my alarm clock when I wake up in the morning.
Gets me greased just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But that one's fun, especially because you're fighting. It's a comical arena. You're fighting around a man taped to a bunch of C4 in the middle of.
He's like going, ugh, the whole time.
And if you run into that area, everybody explodes. And if you shoot any of the C4, everybody explodes. And you gotta that's so funny to just chase Ocelot around this little room.
Yeah, it immediately shows you the difference between Metal Gear Solid 1 and Metal Gear Solid 2 boss fights. Metal Gear Solid 2 boss fights, one, all have the worst song ever, where it's like, like I know I can't make music with my mouth, but that is what it fucking sounds like. It just sounds like noise, like sci-fi noises.
Exactly. With the power of editing, you've already heard it.
Yeah. Whereas 1, you just immediately have this like cinematic set piece in the middle of a tutorial boss fight. And so you're just doing narrative in the middle of the boss fight on top of the mechanics you're already doing in a game that's clearly less mechanically engaged than 2, because one's a PS1, one's a PS2. It's a huge difference.
Yep.
So that's that fight. Throwing grenades into the top of a tanker.
Not a big fan of that one. It's not a tanker, it's a tank.
Tanker, sorry. I just got used to saying tanker a lot. Yeah, it's not great. It's trying to teach you about a mechanic that you don't need.
Yeah, you won't ever use.
Next is Gray Fox.
Gray Fox. I'm not a huge fan of that fight.
It is a little like a lot of the fights in 1 are a little long.
Yeah, a lot of the fights, especially after like Gray Fox and beyond, run too long. They have too much health, and the mechanics are too simple to like hold your attention.
Yeah, I mean, Gray Fox at least switches what he's doing a lot.
Yeah, but essentially, it's just, step aside when he kicks and then punch him. And that's it. You just do that the entire time. And it's so long and it's actually kind of difficult to execute that it can be frustrating because you'll lose a lot,
Yeah. I do like, again, it has somewhat of a story, like, the fight feels like it's part of the story, which I like.
Yeah.
Like, I saw what I said that about, but throwing grenades into a tank, it does not feel a part of the story. It feels very much just a boss fight that's there.
I want to like the Gray Fox fight, but when I actually have to play it, I'm like, I really don't want to.
There's definitely more gameplay elements that could be do it, but I like the way it fits the story. The most famous fight that we really didn't talk about, that everyone talked about this game, Psycho Mantis.
Yes. Psycho Mantis, obviously, just super good. And not just because of the things people talk about. So
the intro stuff,
yeah. Psycho Mantis, he does intro stuff. He'll vibrate your controller, and he's like, put your controller on the table. I'll move it with my mind, and then he activates the rumble pack, and the controller moves across the table.
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? When you're fighting it, you have to physically change the port of the controller that you're using from port 1 to port 2, so that he can't read your button inputs and dodge all your bullets anymore. And that's fun and interesting. Obviously, he's a really cool boss mechanically, but beyond that, he's actually fun to fight. He just picks up items in the room and throws them around with telekinesis, and he has different patterns, and you have to memorize the patterns and dodge properly while getting shots off at the same time. And it's actually mechanically demanding and fun to do.
Yeah, and it feels, it's exactly. The other thing I'd say about Psycho Mantis, though, is I actually like him less over time because the gimmicky part of the fight gets annoyinger the more I played the game, and the gimmick isn't interesting anymore.
You can't skip those bits.
Yeah, because not only is he doing, this meta game joke stuff, I don't like every time I fight him having to get off my couch and plug the controller to port 1 to port 2. That might sound like the laziest piece of shit thing you've ever heard, but you do that, you get up, go to the couch, the fight starts, and you get ready, and then the screen says Hideo 1 on a parody of Video 1, and the screen's all black, and you just wait.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know, it's just going through games, one of the things I really like is if you skip the cutscenes and you're doing the gameplay, you're not dealing with a really long, boss waking up animation.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that.
Yeah. But conceptually, looking back, that fight gets more interesting over time, I think, as we move further and further away from the hardware that made that possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because, this is the era when controllers had cords that had to be plugged in. He reads your mind by reading your memory card. And he's like, you like to play Crash Bandicoot, And, he makes your controller move by a rumble pack. And, it's funny in the remake of it, right?
I think they only use Konami games.
Maybe so. But, in the remake of 1, the controllers don't have rumble packs anymore. And he's like, what? No rumble pack?
No, it's Metal Gear Solid 4.
Is it 4?
Yeah,
it's in 4.
The rumble pack in a GameCube controller.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see, those things have been completely phased out by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that fight could not happen anymore, and that's conceptually interesting to look at.
Yeah, this game also has when you're fighting the helicopter, someone calls you and says, basically switch from stereo to mono.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, how does that fight?
The helicopter?
Yeah.
I don't remember it. What's the helicopter?
Hind D.
The Hind D? Is that a helicopter? It is a helicopter. I always think of it as a plane, but yeah, it is a helicopter. That fight
it's so easy to recognize the difference between helicopters and planes.
I know, but I think 2 has poisoned my mind.
It's I'm colorblind.
That fight I don't really like.
It's another long one.
It's way too long.
Again, I give it it has a thing that 2 doesn't have, where it's a story. The fight is storytelling in itself.
Yeah, but the story's told pretty quickly. Liquid's pretty mad at you, and he wants to kill you with a helicopter.
Yeah,
and it's literally just stand behind the big piece of cover and shoot it for 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's just that Die Hard vibes where you're on the top of a building in the snow.
Yeah.
And you're,
but Die Hard is a movie with pacing. And that fight is not well paced.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint is it's way too long. But there's nothing to the fight to engage you for that time, so it's worse.
Yeah, fair enough. Sniper Wolf, both of them. They're the same fight. Who cares?
The first one,
just put them together. They're no different.
Well, they're a little different. The first one I don't like nearly as much because you're shooting just down a long hallway.
Yeah,
and it's way easier for her to snipe you than it is for you to snipe her. And that's
your positioning kind of matters a little bit more.
Yeah, and this is also like your first time using a sniper rifle, so it feels pretty overly difficult. But then when you get into the snowfield, your options open up a lot, and you get to choose where you want to sit, and you can see her more easily, and I think it's an easier and more engaging fight. Overall, don't really like sniping in that game so much, and especially Sniper Wolf is like super easy because you just kind of track her. Like once you shoot her once, you kind of have her done.
I kind of like the storytelling elements of it. Use diazepam like she does to steady your nerves. You can see her breath, in the cold when she's behind something, but you can't see her to see which area she might come out at. It's pretty simple stuff, but it feels like it creates a tension in you that the game is trying to do. Sometimes you're putting your gun at her and the red dot is over your eyes and you just kind of only see red.
Yeah.
And that's cool. It's just small, but it's cool, and I like that. Not a great engaging fight mechanically, but there's interesting to engage in fights from kind of intellectual, like what it's doing for the storytelling stuff,
Yeah. It's also
I want to play Dark Souls so bad.
It's also a fight the game's not really designed for because it is a first-person shooting aspect, and it's like, well, the game just isn't made for that.
Yeah. Vulcan. Raven.
Obviously, Vulcan Raven is incredible. Love that fight.
Yeah, it's the most engaging fight. You get to use all your explosive shit.
Yeah.
Unlike 2, you get a bunch of shit and you get to use it actually. So you get to go around with claymores and Nikitas and stingers in a fight against a guy holding a airplane Gatling gun.
Yeah.
That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
It's a cool fucking thing.
It's just one big square room and it's got a bunch of dividing containers all throughout it. So it's a game of like cat and mouse. You stay away from him while he hunts you through the room. And you shoot missiles or leave claymores or something. And the missiles, like, you can track him with your minimap, but the Nikita missile, it's a missile that you control its direction, but the minimap doesn't move with the missile. So once you fire and the missile starts moving, you just have to kind of know where you're going, because you can't use your minimap like you do when you normally run around.
Yeah. And lastly, the 3 liquid fights. You got Rex fighting on the roof. I don't know if you want to cut the car chase.
We should. All right, so Rex is a challenging fight that I tend to lose a lot at, and I don't like it for that reason. But it's not a terribly designed fight.
Yeah, it kind of has the whole thing where it's like each thing he uses requires you to go to a different zone, like close, medium, far away.
Yeah.
And so you respond to that by figuring out where to be. And then it's just kind of firing stingers at him. But it feels frantic in a way that, like, the other stinger missile fights don't feel that way.
Yeah.
There's 4 stinger missile fights, like 2 against airplanes. You just shoot things out of the sky.
Yeah.
And then we just did the Ray fight, which is, like, so much worse than that Rex fight.
Yeah.
That Ray fight is garbage.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the same thing where you're kind of, like, disengaging.
It's just fucking boring.
Yeah, and you just, like, even if there is like a go close for this and don't go close for this, you're kind of like, okay, just tanking a lot of the damage.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that the Rays do don't really hit you a lot because they can't, because there's 3 of them, they can't make it that hard.
Exactly.
So they have to make everything kind of be bad at hitting you. And it's just lazy and bad.
Yeah.
And
the Rex fight, I think it is pretty hard to understand. Like, the game isn't really designed for combat, and that fight requires a lot of combat.
Yeah.
And I think for those reasons, like, mechanically it doesn't work super well, and it frustrates me because I have a hard time executing the plan that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And then that's
PS1 for you, though.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 2 has less of an excuse than that. Yeah, I will say that.
Pretty much none. Then there's the fist fight on top of Rex, and that's pretty fun, I think. It's just a straight up fist fight with Liquid, but Liquid has some bullshit. But I found
he's the bull rush. Get his shoulders down, run at you. You're like, I just take damage.
He has the bull rush, but also it's like sometimes you're like, oh, that my attack missed, and he hit me for it, and stuff like that. And you can't recover health or anything, so it's like all your mistakes count against you. But I found, even though I lost that fight a bunch, I found the more times I did it, the more I understood the signals that they were sending me, and it's actually a fairly well designed fight. You just probably have to do it more than a few times.
Yeah, and I think that's impressive for a clearly really undeveloped hand-to-hand combat system.
Yeah. I had to find out... I wasn't immediately aware of the mistakes I was making, but as I played it more, I was like, okay, if he makes this move when I approach, I know not to attack. Because he'll dodge and hit me. I know I have to put my body like right up close to him, because if I'm too far away, I'll go punch, kick, but my punches will knock him too far away, my kick will miss and he'll hit me, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And always just look out for bull rush.
And that's interesting too, because like that's all you have is you have a punch button, and it goes punch, kick. If you stop pressing it over and over again, it restarts in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all the mechanics you have of control over your moveset.
Yeah, so it's interesting they made actually a somewhat mechanically diverse fight for it.
And then finally, we're chasing.
Yeah, that sucks. It's
that's it, we're done.
It's a turret section, and you can't refill your health, and it's incredibly hard to aim the turret. Like,
you just don't really see where you're aiming. Sometimes.
Yeah, you just can't tell, and you've got to kill a bunch of dudes, and people are shooting at you constantly. There's just nothing you can do about it. So you just kind of win if you're lucky enough to win.
Yeah.
On the back of all that, this isn't a boss fight, but there's a room of tons and tons of stairs. You just have to run upstairs for like 5 minutes. And dudes are chasing you and shooting you. And dudes are in front of you sometimes and shooting you. And you have an assault rifle and a will to move forward.
Yeah.
And nothing else. I made you play that room.
I don't mind that room.
I hate it. It's so bad because it adds nothing, in my opinion. This game is not about combat, so making me run up a seemingly infinite flight of stairs just filled with dudes with a bad combat engine, that sucks. I just don't like it at all.
As someone who did all the VR missions for Metal Gear Solid 1, I actually kind of enjoy engaging with the combat. It's really simple. It knows what it's trying to do, even though it's simple, and it does it. And I like that about the combat.
Is what it's trying to do run and gun?
Yeah.
Really?
It's the auto aims. So throughout the whole early part of the series, 1, 2, and 3, it will auto aim in your third person mode.
Yeah.
And they want you to use that more than they want you to use first person. They want you to be able to move and shoot when you're shooting, and they want first person to be kind of a element of stealth. And it is just like, it is enjoyable enough to just kind of, I don't need to aim my gun. That's not why I'm doing it. Is I just need to know to use the right gun in the right scenario when things are in front of me, you know? And most of the time, if a bunch of things are in front of you, you already lost. You're playing Metal Gear, right? It's just going to surround you and kill you, right? But when, 3 people come in and you just kind of run your FAMAS back and forth, your machine gun basically, just do an arc across in front of you, and it just wipes out people instantly. I don't know. Like, I think it works with the story and the narrative, and it's not fun to do. Like, when you're going through those stairs, you just end up with a body count at the end of it.
I mean, yeah.
Right? And it feels like that. Like, you just run up, and you're just machine gunning people down really seamlessly. Like, it's like one of the few times in the game you're not using a SOCOM. And I don't mean just for Metal Gear Solid 1. For most, all 3, 1, 2, and 3 Metal Gear Solid, just use a handgun the whole time.
I just don't find it seamless, because the problem is, it's really hard to, like, just turn around. And there's no defense against just getting shot, except shoot first. That game is not designed to do those stairs. There's people off screen in front of you. There's people in the dark. There's people behind you, and you have to deal with all of them with a limited health supply, and it's possible you sort of can't do it, you know? Like, it's more than likely you do those stairs more than once.
Yeah, but you definitely get, like, the other... I think a good way of saying if the mechanic actually is working is if you get better at it every time, and you certainly get better at the stairs every time.
Yeah, but that's kind of just memorizing placement stuff. The mechanic doesn't improve. Like, you don't get better at shooting, you just get better at knowing where the guards are.
I disagree. You definitely do.
I've done it. I didn't.
You did not do it this time and recently.
But I have done it. Like, yeah. I know what it does, and I know how the mechanic works.
But you definitely get better at shooting as the way you play the game. Like, that's just, I think that's pretty provable. There's little things like when you pull out your gun and you see where it aims, you know that because you moved, it aimed at the thing that you wanted to do. And then as you get better, you realize how long you need to hold the button for shooting to know it's lethal, right? And you tend to just get better at it, right? You tend to become slightly quicker with your motions, right? Where even though you're turning around, you see when the auto aim starts to happen because your character shifts their shoulders in an unnatural way. And then you squeeze it for just enough to get enough bullets to kill. And then you quickly turn around to go back the other way. And those little bits of timing make you feel more efficient and make the whole thing easier. And there's lots of little, like, parts of the game that are just kind of like, okay, just kind of aim in front of you and shoot for a bit, that it feels like you understand exactly the number of bullets and what you need to do to just take something down. And like, there's an appeal to that in the fight, in the narrative of the game that I think like resonates a little bit better than just, oh, well, I learned how to headshot really good, right?
Well, yeah.
That just feels like when you learn to headshot really good, you're learning it as a player and not as like Snake and understanding exactly how many bullets it takes to kill a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not saying you can't get better at shooting, period.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're right. There's little tips and tells in shooting. What I'm saying is like that style of run and gun is only there. Like the things you learn there aren't really transferable outside of that room, which makes it maybe a thing you could get better at, but it's sort of pointless.
Well, that's kind of a Kojima thing as a whole. Like you'll have a game where he has a base thing that he explores a lot, but in every game he kind of has these sections that are like, you're only doing this skill here. Like I was talking about that earlier with Metal Gear Solid 2 with like the Semtex and the looking for bomb section stuff. You know what I mean? This is a sort of puzzle that is not going to be throughout the rest of the game. Even dumb shit like we have an infinite ammo section in Metal Gear Solid 3. That's not really what you've been doing up until the point of this game, right?
Yeah.
But it works because it's fun to shoot a bunch of things. It might not also work. Who's to say?
It works better in that game.
Yeah, it works better in that game. And like maybe that like
it's
that's kind of an interesting comparison because Metal Gear Solid 1 does the same thing, except for you're on the turret of a truck.
I was gonna say,
but it's an unfamiliar gun. It's different. Like when you're in the car in Metal Gear Solid 3, aiming around with guns that you've already used, you feel a little bit more control over the character because you have some experience with it.
Yeah.
Versus a turret you've never used before.
And I mean, just graphically, you can see what you're doing better. You know.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's just PS1.
In 1, you don't see your bullets or anything. So like the turret is, you can only see where the bullets are landing, and only kinda because you're moving. So it's like where your bullets are landing is not just telling you where you're shooting. It's a mess.
But like that same thing happens in 2 in the tanker, but it's different, right? Is in tanker you have a section where it's just a big long hallway where people come at you.
Yeah.
And it's just like here's a murder practice. And it's not, you don't really ever do that again. Like as writing, you're never just like the one time you have to kill a bunch of people, you don't have to, but they just gave you a sword.
Yeah, they give you a sword.
You know, and you want to use it because little do you might not know, they're never gonna let you, like, that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
Use a sword now or don't enjoy sword.
Do not.
But yeah, I don't know. It's somewhat interesting to kind of in these spy games to always have a section where they're like, now you have to murder people.
Yeah.
You know, and in Metal Gear Solid, it works a little bit better in Metal Gear Solid 2, even though I think most of the thematic stuff doesn't work better. But one of the things they do in 2 is they make killing look more graphic. Right?
Yeah.
Because they can.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you'll shoot someone in first person mode and you see blood fly in your camera. Or you sneak up right behind them and you shoot it and you just see, like, a spurt of blood come out the front of their face.
Yeah.
And it just makes you think more about the fact that you're sneaking up behind people and blowing their fucking brains out. So, I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of an interesting storytelling element, too.
Yeah, it really is interesting. But I don't think they're really, like, making a statement with it. But it is interesting if you want to read more into it. You know?
Yeah. I would like to think so because the way Kojima has been making games up until this point.
Yeah, it's distinctly
kind of always,
possible.
Always focusing on how being a soldier is, kind of bad.
So sometimes with Kojima, it's hard to know what's intended and what you're reading into because usually what's intended, he is so explicit and open about, you know? But like, there's plenty of stuff he doesn't tell you about. He just makes hyper complicated games.
And the thing he does a lot too, right, is he has stuff that he thinks is genuinely interesting and believes. And there's stuff that he's like, this is funny. I like funny things.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Right? And so sometimes, like, someone comically dying can be done in a funny way, you know? And he gets that, even if he's not pro-violence. There's a way to have a death that speaks to, you know, the humorous. Okay, cut this. There's a way to kill people that speaks to the humor in the situation.
Another thing in 1 is you do get captured at some point, and you get strapped to a torture chair in which you have to mash the triangle button while they torture you to not die. That is hard to do. It is not hard for everyone. It's something, at least on a normal difficulty, I can handle just fine. But there's a lot of people that aren't going to be able to do that. And I always wonder about the value of that kind of thing. Because it comes back again in 4, like you have a snake crawling through a tunnel full of microwaves that are like cooking him. And you have to constantly tap triangle to make him move forward as he just dies in this microwave tunnel. And it hurts you because you got to do it a lot, and your arm starts to hurt while you do it. And it's interesting because like that's one way of engaging the player physically with the game that they're playing.
It's literally so insane that that's actually the best part of gameplay of all of them.
Oh, I know.
I think it's literally the best gameplay in the whole game.
It probably is. But it's also, I mean, this was 2001 and people weren't really thinking about these kind of things. But like, it's also, you know, a really ableist way to make a video game. So there's like, I just sort of passively wonder how many people tried to play Metal Gear Solid 1 and had to stop there. I don't know if that number's high or not, but like it's got to be somebody at least, right?
Yeah, and it gets worse in later games. It's interesting too because they literally say, "And don't try to use a turbo controller," and I think they block it.
Yeah,
I'm
almost certain that if you use a turbo, it just kills you or something.
Yeah, so like, those sorts of things exist to help people who can't do those sorts of things.
They're not just cheat devices. They're enabling people to play games.
Yeah, it's like, this goes into certain things about like, should all games have button remapping and crap like that?
Yeah. Yes, but beyond that, yeah. I just kind of wanted to put it out passively, like, the things that, because if you play that game on like a super hard mode, most people won't be able to hit the triangles enough to live. But there's probably not a small section of people that can't do it in the first place. And that's something to think about, even if you think that section is good. Like, I like the fact that it does connect you to physically playing the game, but at the same time, I don't like the fact that will be difficult for some players.
I'm extra bitter about this because Look, I'm not a fast button presser. I've never been a fast button presser. The one pressing buttons fast in 1 is still a joke. Like, even though I'm not fast pressing buttons, I can do it easily.
Yeah.
I tried a long time ago to beat the hardest difficulty, European Extreme in 2, and there's a part where Solidus chokes you. It literally takes this long. Okay, so Solidus is choking us. That's the sound of someone pressing a button. It's incredible. Still being choked.
I cannot believe this is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is the YouTube we're watching right now. I have not seen this YouTube. This guy, he's switched the finger he's used to tap multiple times already.
He's switching arms because his arms are getting tired.
Yeah. Oh, it's getting lower. It's getting lower.
Uh-oh. Your oxygen's just running out. How is your hand doing?
He's still choking you. I literally can't believe it lasts this long.
Yeah, check your timestamps on the cast right now. Oh, guy's losing health.
Losing health.
Oh god, he's struggling. Oh, you can hear the tap slowing down. No,
oh my god, he's so low!
Go, man, go! No! It literally went away!
Oh my god.
Wow, he has no health bar left.
That was incredible. That was literally the fastest I've ever seen someone tap, and it went down to the wire.
Yeah, so that's literally like one... Yeah, so that's literally like a full minute or more of just tapping a button.
Yeah, and I had to stop my European Extreme run because of it. You know what happens after you beat that tapping? The final boss.
Yeah.
I literally stopped the hardest with the final boss because I couldn't press triangle fast enough.
And that just happens like mid cutscene. Like,
I was going online being like, do you have any tips for dealing with it? And the thing I kept seeing was, try a spoon. What the fuck does that mean? Like, I literally found, like, videos of people like, if you rock the spoon back and forth, you can do it. And it's just like, this is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is not good design. I
cannot imagine. It's so frustrating because the entire game is done, and there's, like, ostensibly harder things to do in the game than tapping a button. You know?
Yeah.
There's, like, all the boss fights are hard. Just getting through the game is hard. And you get to the very end, and because in the middle of a cutscene, he just chokes you for, like, a full minute.
Yeah.
And it has no bearing on the story or anything. It's not even significant that he does it. He just does it casually for no reason.
Yeah, and, like, even if you're really good and you could, like, if you just have fucking poundy hands and you couldn't beat it, if you were playing that on your run, you'd be like, oh yeah, I have to spend a minute being bored.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no one feels good about that. It's not engaging gameplay.
Yeah, it's absolute garbage and should not exist.
So one thing I'm kind of shocked that, like, whatever hour into the cast, we haven't really thought too much about. Everything to do with Raiden. Okay. He's a character in 2.
Is he?
He's the main character in 2.
Arguably.
Nope.
I mean, he is the main character.
Yeah.
But
it's usually pretty easy to find out the main character in a video game. It's the one you control the most in general.
Yeah, I mean, Raiden. Ugh.
So, like, there's a couple of things. Like, there's kind of a lot of, like, what comes to soon be effeminate jokes that lead into a lot of gay jokes in and outside of the game.
Yeah.
You know, things around the game. Which isn't super great. But it, like, pissed off a lot of people because they wanted it to be Snake, but then it's just this kind of joke character, right?
Yeah.
But, like, he's also, like, he's, like, straight up annoying on purpose. But, like, that doesn't mean it's good to make him annoying just because it was on purpose, you know? Like, one of the first scenes is, like, you know, Raiden. You will log into the node, and then you'll get a map you can look at. And he's like, did you say nerd?
Did you say nerd?
Like, what the fuck are you? No. No idea. What was that? That was weird. You know? And, like, early, I get it. He's supposed to be a proxy for the player, right? And it's supposed to be kind of about when you start a game, you think you're tough shit, but you haven't played this game yet. You have to learn this world, learn how the actual game, how to be good. And Raiden the whole time is like, I played VR Mission 63, VR Mission 154, that simulate real life experiences. So I know that I can do this and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really
you know?
Kojima poking fun at the gamers in general.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, oh, you've only played simulations of combat. You don't know what real combat is.
Yeah, and it's just like, but there's like a question to me ask is like, what is the value of this story when so much of what the character does is either one, be like pretty offensive, you know what I mean, in a lot of ways, but two, just be actively annoying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in not a super fun way. Like, I like a lot of annoying characters in games because they can be funny. Like, I like Rose, the girlfriend talking to Raiden, because it's so funny in the middle of a nuclear defense mission to be like, do you not know it's our anniversary tomorrow? And him not picking up on it.
Yeah, like you're trying to save the president, and she's like, Raiden, remember that time I went into your room and you just didn't have like any posters on the wall?
Yeah.
It's like you didn't even live there. And Raiden's like, I am busy.
Yeah.
It's incredibly funny to have Rose along for the ride because Raiden is he's so awkward to begin with, and to put a girlfriend in there just makes it 10 times more awkward.
And this character feels like this whole sort of weird enigma, but then at the end of the game, they're just kind of like, actually, you were a child soldier. And he's like, I just remembered all of it.
It really does do that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I was that. And it's like, you didn't. There was no memory loss moment. There was no amnesia. He just forgot.
We used to call you Jack the Ripper and put gunpowder in your food.
God, they really do just start calling him Jack the Ripper at the end.
Yeah, his girlfriend's crying. And he's like, I saw atrocities. And she's like, oh God.
Please stop.
I'm so sad. But also shortly will be revealed to not maybe being real.
Yeah.
It's still unclear.
It's super unclear. Here's the thing. She calls him, the Colonel calls, and he's like, Raiden, turn the game off right now. This is when he's malfunctioning because he's a robot. And Rose pops in on the same codec and is like, "You'll hurt your eyes sitting so close to the TV." And then a few minutes later, Rose calls and is like, "Raiden, I have to tell you, I was a spy this whole time, and our relationship was fake." And Raiden's like, "What? Why are you doing this?" And it's like, you know she's a robot, right? Like, you figured that out earlier when they were both doing the robot stuff? But, like, apparently that stuff, she also, at the very end of the call, she's like, "There's a bird," you know? As, like, a robot voice shuts down, and she says, "I'm pregnant." But that turns out to be true. But even after that, she does call again. Like, her and Colonel trade off, talking shop with Raiden later, just openly as the Patriot GW. And then Rose shows up in human form after everything, and she is pregnant. It is impossible to tell what Rose was real and what Rose wasn't, and if Raiden has been fucking a robot this whole time.
Yeah, no, I'm still confused about that.
I'm
This is exactly the fucking... I know I reference this a lot to you outside the cast, but I think everyone needs to think about it. There's a Doctor Who episode with Matt Smith.
Yeah.
And the Rory, I want to say,
Yeah.
is dating Karen Gillian's character, and he's a part of the show, and he turns into a plastic Roman centurion to guard a box.
As you do.
And then, like, they solve the plot through straight up nonsense. And then for the rest of the show, you're like, are you a plastic soldier still?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on with Rory? You know what I mean? And then I read online one day on Wikipedia, it's like, no, they restarted the Big Bang and he got rebooted. And you're like, well, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. I'm so glad you're done running that show, Stephen Moffat. Fuck you. But,
yeah, Russell T. Davies is coming back.
Yeah.
I'm excited to like my favorite show again.
Yeah. But it's exactly how I feel about Rose. I'm like, are you still a robot? Are you made of plastic?
Yeah.
Like, what are the rules?
Don't worry, she'll never come back.
She is your main codec person in Metal Gear Solid 4.
No. God, I don't want to play 4 again.
Yeah.
I played that game once, and I think I blacked out most of it from my memory. But I remember that microwave tunnel real well.
Yeah, it's the best part of the game.
Apparently.
It's also, like, the only gameplay in that section of the last chapter.
Yeah.
It's like microwave tunnel. So actually, like, it's 3 rooms. It's, run through a bunch of enemies, stupid hard compared to everything else.
I remember the boat.
Microwave tunnel, easy as shit, but cinematic. And then, final boss fight, which is punching Ocelot. Second best boss fight in the series.
Yeah. And with that, I think we've kind of wrapped up Metal Gear Solids 1 and 2 for everything we're going to say on this podcast.
I can't stress this enough. For the love of God, can I just go back to playing Dark Souls?
Thanks everybody for listening. Listen to us, listen to our other podcasts, our other episodes, not our other, like, we don't have other podcasts.
Yet.
Listen to the Garages and play Metal Gear Solids 1 and 2, because for whatever problems they have, they're both really good and should be thought about. Next month,
play 1.
I mean, yeah, just play. If you got to pick one, just play 1.
Yeah, just play 1 and 3. And then if you want more, keep going.
Next month, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to be playing a game specifically. We're going to be talking about a particular problem in gaming, a philosophical problem in many ways, in which we live kind of in an era of what I call release now and update later mentality for creating games. But we want to talk about in general, what is the value of updating games as a whole, and what does it mean to, like, change a work of art as after it's been released into the world. So look forward to that. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to talk about a bunch of different games. It's going to be very fun. So thanks for listening.
When you gotta fight gods, but none of them live up to it, then all of them give up. Does that make you feel better? When you gotta fight gods, but none of them meet your eye line, does that make you feel fine, or are you disappointed? You know, when you look up to is better than you are.
Back in my day, if they fucked up a Fire Emblem game, you had to wait 20 years for them to not fix those problems.
Still your day, huh? Or, it's just a Dragon Quest, and there's no problems from the beginning.
Exactly. The way you should do it.
All right. Once again, thanks for listening.
Wait, one more. Or finally, there's the Dark Souls. All the problems that exist, we've all gotten Stockholm Syndrome, and we've just agreed that they were always meant to be that way.
It's not a problem, it's a feature, right?
Yeah.
There's that little square in Blighttown that is a death plane that you can just walk onto. That's just Blighttown. It just sucks there, and you accept it like a man.
Keep the frame rate.
Hashtag keep the frame rate. Oh, fuck. Bye.
The Snyder Cut.